Good morning. This is a regular meeting of the Cameron County Commissioners Court, the second day of August 2012. It is now a little past 8:30 a.m. As we do all meetings, we will start with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag. I'd like to ask Mr. Pete Sepulveda to lead us in those two pledges at the appropriate time. Please rise. Thank you. Pete.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the flag and pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Public comment? As I explained at the last meeting, we're going to reorganize the agenda just to facilitate our TV people and make sure that we don't run over our TV schedule because they start to charge us extra when we go over a certain time limit. So again, we're starting today. We will start with consent items followed by regular items, and then we will come back before executive session and do the presentations that we have as item listed as 2A or 2B. So consent items, are there any items any member of the court wish to take out and discuss separately? I just have one correction that came from legal on 3.0, taking out the language as it pertains to the Department of State Health Services. Anything else?
I've got item R, double A, double C, double D, double H.
Okay, so slow down. I know you're fast. Double A, what was the other one?
Double C,
Double C,
double D,
double D,
double H, double I, and double K.
anything else? All in favor, signify by saying aye on all the other agenda items with the exception of those that were taken out.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Carries. Item R, consideration action for the appointment of Russell Clark, Belperchi, Deputy Constable for Precinct 6.
My only question there, is this a reserve deputy or just a full-time deputy? And is it a new position or replacing a retired individual? Okay. Move to approve.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Double A, consideration action to approve the interlocal tax assessment and collection co-op agreement.
I have a question on this one, Mr. Aguirre.
Yes, sir.
On this one, you're actually adding new budget with this item, new
Yes.
employees?
Yes, sir.
How,
Yes.
how many employees are you gonna add?
The actual budget calls for three additional employees, a bookkeeper and 2 tax clerks for that particular office.
And this is gonna be for the Port Isabel office?
For the Port Isabel office, and of course, the bookkeeper is going to be in the Brownsville office to handle the additional $51.8 million that we're going to be bringing in from those districts.
And is that gonna be enough, what we're charging them, in order to pay for all that?
Yes, sir. On July the 5th, the Commissioners Court gave me the authority to negotiate a budget and a cost schedule for those 5 entities. So since then, we've met with each board, each commission, and came out with a budget and a interlocal agreement, which they've all agreed on. And now the last step is for the Commissioners Court to approve the interlocal agreements that have been approved by all the districts.
Okay, and so these salaries are gonna be based on what we're getting from these entities?
Yes, sir.
So if we give an increase across the county or to other county employees from the general fund, we're not going to have to give these employees an increase?
No, sir.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Judge, I have a
Yes.
question. The whatever percentage-wise or that you negotiate with these, are they comparable with other taxing entities that you're already collecting taxes for?
No, Commissioner, it's a little different because it was a last-minute deal that we had to put together. They lost their tax collector under a dark cloud about 3-4 weeks ago, and that's where we got called in to come up with a plan. It was a short plan to put together. It was real quick, and we've been working on this for the last 22 days. So to answer your question, it's not quite, but it's close. But of course, the state statute says that we can't charge more than what it's going to cost us to bring them in.
Okay, thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
By Commissioner
Second.
Gatsa, second by Commissioner Sanchez. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Double C, double D regarding county auditor travel. Yes.
Martha, are you going to both of these, or is one of them for someone else?
I have already
She already
gone to
went.
both seminars. Those are continuing education courses that I needed to fulfill prior to the expiration of July 31st.
Oh, okay. And any reason why we hadn't put them on an earlier court agenda?
I got real busy, and then my certification period ends in July, so I needed to get my classes done, so it was quick.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item double H, County Code at Law number 3, office staff to travel.
We can take double H and double K together.
Okay. The divert court office, double K, divert court office staff also to travel.
And the only thing we're approving here is registration fees, Martha, because it's the next year's budget.
You will be approving registration fees and the travel as well.
Can we do
However,
that?
Yes, the travel will not be incurred until the new fiscal year. That's
Okay.
correct.
Got it. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
On both items, moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, carries. Just
Double
yeah,
I.
double I. Constable Precinct 4 office staff, Deputy Constable Oscar Garcia to travel to Houston.
Just one question.
Yes.
We don't have a policy in regards to how far ahead we can book people's travel as far as the policy is concerned?
No, Commissioner.
Because this is October, why are we doing this so early on into the year?
Usually when they do it this early on, it's because the registration fee, if they pay it
due?
It's cheaper.
So they can get
Usually
a
it's,
cheaper rate.
But my experience with most of these meetings is 30 days before the meeting is usually the deadline as to when you can get the discounted amount.
We'd have to look, but generally,
So,
the departments that
this is
do,
October, okay? We're like in July.
And my only concern, because I know we've done it in the past, this issue came up, but basically we were just proving registration fees to be paid, and I guess it allows the employee to book their room because they'll run out of space.
the hotels will have a cutoff date for the reduced fee, for the negotiated rate. So that is usually why these things are done way in advance as well.
The issue in the hotels is not usually the cutoff date, but the demand. If you want to stay at the hotel where
Right.
the conference is, you better
They
do
have
it
a,
way
they have a
ahead of time.
select number of rooms available, and that's it.
But again, Martha, anybody can use their own personal credit card to guarantee that room, even 3 months in advance. They don't run the credit card.
Right,
So
we
there
do
is
not have
validity to the
a
argument
credit
of why
card.
it's so far in advance.
We do not have a county credit card that they would use to guarantee. They would have to use their own personal
Yeah.
credit card to
But
to
normally,
reserve it.
99 out of 100 times, it does not get charged.
That's
It's just a
correct.
guarantee to hold the room for that day and whatever month it is.
Yes.
Okay.
And we generally encourage the department to try to incorporate all of their travel costs in one agenda item as opposed to having two agendas, to come to the court.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Back to double I. Precinct 4 office staff. Commissioner, going to Houston.
Yes, this is a deputy constable. What is the seminar they're going to, and what's it for purposes of deputy constable?
Commissioners, it's tree survival. They show you videos on actual shootings and prepare you when you're out there in the streets to become a safer officer when you conduct traffic stops and so forth.
Has this deputy already had his necessary training for the year?
Well, the cycle just started. We have 2 years. Started in August, so we have 2 years to do that. And all my patrol guys have gone to this training, and he's one of my newer ones, been with me probably since the beginning of the year. So he hasn't had a chance.
He hasn't done
came
his
straight out of
training?
the academy, so it'll be a good training for him.
But he hasn't done his training? He needs the training?
Well, he's got some training, but he hasn't done all his core casts because the fiscal year just started in August.
So he
he
does.
got 2 years.
Does he need it or not?
Well, this would go towards some of his hours, yes, definitely.
Okay, but does he need to get these hours?
Well, they're not core classes that are required by the state, but you can use these hours towards the 40 hours that's required. The state requires you to take, yeah.
Okay. And Martha, do the JPs and constables still have their own education fund, or is this general fund?
This money would come out of, the cost would come out of general fund. There are no training funds available for the constable.
And how are we doing on travel budget for the year?
There are still funds available. I can't give you the exact figure. I can email you or email the court and let them know, but there are travel funds available. Our
Okay.
records reflect that this officer for Chiclo's training needs 40 hours and that he has earned 20 to date.
So he needs them.
That this will give them 16.
Okay.
So your motion
Move
is
to
approved by
approve.
Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. We go to the action items. I've been asked to take one item out of order, which is item 4Q. So let's take that one out. Discussion possible. Is it 4Q, Sophie?
Yes, sir. Is Frank here? I think we have members of
Consideration,
the
yeah.
street.
I couldn't read, I thought I was on the wrong one. Consideration action of a request from Saldivar neighborhood for streetlight installments and service. Frank?
Yes.
We have a request by representatives from the Saldivar neighborhood for streetlight installation. We have a request from representatives from the Saldivar neighborhood for streetlight installation, and they'd like to present their request to you. They're willing to provide for the service through their tax statements if the county pays for the installation.
Okay. Do we have money somewhere allocated to do that?
The county set aside some bond funds from its last bond issue for streetlight installation.
What's the cost?
We don't have an estimate. The way the process works is first the court authorizes the installation, and then we work with the electrical company to come up with the agreements. Once we have the agreements in place, we can figure out what it's going to cost, not only for installation, but also for service costs that you pass
All right.
on to the neighborhood.
Start working on that.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Isela Rocha y mi dirección es 435 South Brownie. Soy la representante de la colonia Saldívar y San Juan Diego con Vale Interfaith. Estamos aquí porque nos gustaría pedir que si nos podría traer alumbrado en nuestro vecindario. Las calles para las que estamos solicitando lo anterior son la calle Saldívar, Hackaday y parte de la Brownie que se encuentra enfrente de nuestras calles. Para esto ya hablamos con los vecinos y están de acuerdo. Y saben que es una necesidad para proteger la seguridad de nuestras familias. También tenemos entendido que hay que pagar y estamos de acuerdo con esto. Si tiene alguna pregunta, con confianza.
Bienvenida.
Gracias.
¿Cuántas viviendas están en esa área? Más o menos.
Son como unas 35.
35. ¿Y de cuántas calles estamos hablando?
Estamos hablando de 2 calles y la avenida principal que viene siendo la calle Brownie hasta donde empieza la calle Hackaday.
Y ahorita ni hay luces que ustedes pagan en particular, ¿verdad?
Hay unas que nosotros pagamos particular, pero en la esquina de la calle Brownie y Saldívar, ahí es donde esperan el camión los niños y ahí no hay nada de alumbrado.
Ahora, las luces que ya se están pagando ustedes en particular, ¿esas se van a quedar o las van a quitar y vamos a poner de nuevas?
Pues lo que pasa es que las luces que nosotros estamos pagando están adentro de la propiedad de nosotros.
Pero pues, este es el poste con la luz, ¿verdad?
No.
Entonces, ¿qué luz tienen allí?
Nosotros queremos el poste con la luz, claro.
Right, okay.
Pero lo que nosotros pagamos están adentro de nuestras propiedades, no tenemos poste, o sea, las tenemos en el techo.
Ah, ok, son luces de...
Son
ok,
luces-
yo no, lo estaba preguntando
Ah,
si
ok, perdón.
hay veces hay gente que paga por el poste y ponen la
Ah,
luz.
no.
Entonces, eso no tienen
No,
aquí.
claro.
¿Tienen más o menos una idea cuántos postes se van a necesitar para poner?
No, ya pedimos la información y...
Judges, I understood it, I'm sorry. Lo que entiendo yo es que el primer paso era venir aquí a pedir y nosotros autorizaríamos al Planning Department para que empezaran a indagar con la compañía de luz y luego ellos van a darnos un diseño de qué tantos postes de luz y alambrados se necesitaría. Solo que yo creo que todavía no llegamos a este punto.
It's a very, and that's correct, that's the process. It's a very small area. You're looking at maybe 3 to 5 lights.
3 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further? Make a motion, Commissioner
So
Benavides?
moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garza. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries to proceed
Judge.
forward. Gracias.
Judge, on items E and I and O and P, can we discuss those after executive session, please?
Which ones?
E,
Hold on.
I, O, and P.
E, I,
O, and P.
O, and P will be discussed after executive session. Okay. Budget amendments.
Judge, Commissioners, you have the budget amendments placed in front of you, and the first one is a budget amendment for the health grant for that vaccine that they will be administering in their program. And next pages are line item transfers. We've got line item transfers under Emergency Management, County Court Law 3, District Courts, JP, Auditor's Office, Building Maintenance, the jail, Constable Precinct 1, Parks Division, and regular Constable Precincts 1, Environmental Health, and then you've got the grant funds. For the most part, they are operational, and they are all budget neutral. And the next page is also the health grants. The last one that you have is one for the Isla Blanca Park, and that is the $1 incremental that was approved, the rate that was approved to cover the lifeguard services. This budget amendment has not been presented, and that's an addition of $107,200.
Let me ask a question regarding the lifeguard issue. Javier? Are you here? Just a quick comment. On the lifeguard stations that were put up, those do not have cover, like a little shelter or a rooftop or something?
The city did provide them with umbrellas, the large umbrellas, but some of them don't, some of the lifeguards don't care to put them up.
Oh, really?
You know, I guess they want to prove their tan.
Okay, all
And I
right.
asked them about that because some of them I would see them with the umbrellas and some of them I wouldn't, so I asked them, you know, why you were, some of them you put up and some of them you didn't.
All right, well, just so you know, someone asked, and I said, look, I'll ask. So, okay, so it's because they do not want them,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, all right. Anything else, Martha?
There's also a salary schedule for the Health Department as well, for Fund 240 and Fund 230. And this is a program that starts on August the 1st. And you have the salary schedule that was just passed out for the tax office as well.
Any questions?
I have one. The highlighted, Tony, the highlighted ones are the ones that will be incurred after we approve the new contracts you have, correct? Okay, thank you.
Do I hear a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
By Commissioner Hernandez, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Claims.
Claims, I have warrants number 284, 268 through 284-573. I have warrant number 284-578 through 284-713. I also have 3 manuals that I would like to read in and have accounts payable run on this morning for release today. One of them is a City of Brownsville building permit for $100. The other one is the City of Brownsville landfill payment for $315. These two I am reading in as manual because though that check was consolidated and there was only one written. The City of Brownsville is requiring for the building permit check to be cut separate, and it's for the restaurant that was the cafeteria, the concessionaire at the Judicial Courthouse. So they need that so that they can continue with the project. So those would be manuals that would be run this morning. There is also another one for $10,000, but that is an agenda item that is in the in the discussion. So I would like to defer that approval until you approve that agenda item.
Or approve it subject to us approving the agenda.
Subject to approving that. I also have payroll dated August the 3rd for $789.49. Payroll dated August the 3rd for $1,726,911.52. Payroll that was released on July the 20th that had not come before court yet, and that was released out of the impressed account. That is for $1,191.10. I have Caremark ACH claims for $131,525.59 for your approval.
Questions?
Move to approve with, subject to us approving the other item.
Thank you.
Moved by Commissioner Gasa. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides. Any discussion? Please note by
One-
abstention on the affidavits I provided. Yes, sir.
One, on the executive appraisals for $28,000, what is that for? For the acquisition of the, okay. Okay.
We went through the purchasing procedure.
Okay.
I'm
Any
just
further
wondering.
discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Minutes, May 10th, 14th, 21st, 24th of May. Also another one, 24th of May, 30th, regular special.
Move the table, Judge.
Moved by Commissioner Gasa to table.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Item D, consideration approval of resolution supporting the designation of U.S. Highway 281 as interstate highway with I-69.
Judge, Commissioner Joseph Palacios is about 20 minutes away, so if we can skip this item and then come back to
Can we
it.
just approve it?
We've got representatives from the
Moved by-
county judge's office and.
You can ask him to turn
the
around and
RMA.
go back.
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, carries. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Bobby.
All right. Item E, consideration approval of a contract between Cameron County and the Law Office of, okay, we're going to talk about that in executive. Item F, consideration discussion of centralized collection project. Martha, you might just stand up there for a while.
Sorry, excuse me. As y'all are well aware, we were tasked by the court to explore the possibility of centralizing collections for all JP offices. We've had a couple meetings, and there was a number of questions and concerns that were raised. And initially, when we first started, we had to assess what sort of collections do the JP offices initiate. They have civil suit filings. They have bond fees that they collect, not bond fees, but rather bond funds for people that put up a bond, and they also have traffic violations that they collect. So, in conversations that we had, it was determined that the object was to not just address the traffic violations, but rather to redesignate all of the cash collections from all JP offices and explore the possibility of transferring it to another department. We had a meeting on June the 22nd, and we had representatives from all of the members that were appointed. There was points of discussion that centered around this at that time was, does Commissioners Court have the right to take this function and assign it to another office? And I will let Juan Gonzalez address that when he is as soon as he's available for that. I believe he's here already. But anyway, he addressed the committee as well regarding the the legality and the statutory legislation, the enabling legislation that is already there, is in place, and does address this particular issue. Then other points of discussion that we had was, how would it help the county? How would it help these county offices by transferring this function to another location? And what would be any negative impacts to any of the constituents? And how would it affect the JP operations as they presently operate? Is it really going to assist them? Is anybody's statutory legal obligation that they have being overridden or taken away from them? So we've had very good meetings, had very good discussions, had a lot of concerns that were brought up, and we've had very good rapport within the committee. I will address some of the positive impacts that we have at this time for the county. Positive impacts to the county would be immediately that it would enhance accountability. Let me have Juan Gonzalez go ahead and start on the enabling legislation.
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge. On the issue of the centralized collections, we've been having some good meetings. I had a meeting with several of the JPs in San Benito about 3 weeks ago. I emphasized that this is a legislative mandate, that we're directed by the legislature to centralize, and so I think they understand that. Their input is very well taken, and we do have a meeting scheduled for next week with the Office of Court Administration in Austin, as well as with some judges in Bell County. But I think we're well on our way to analyzing all of the issues and getting the concerns addressed.
So we are under, I guess we're authorized to do it should we so choose, right?
It is, we have to do it. How we do it is not mandated, but that we have to be centralized is mandated. Okay. And we've gotten some assistance from Jim Lehman, the manager of this program with Office of Court Administration. There's a local regional guy named Aaron Castillo, who we've been consulting with as well. They tell us that Bell County has what they consider a best practices model, because they've been very successful at doing it. So they're going to be kind enough to take a lot of time out of their day to visit with us. Martha's going, IT, and representatives of various
Just out of
parties.
curiosity, how many JPs does Bell County have?
Bell County has 4. And their population is approximately 330,000. So that was the first question was, well, how does it compare population-wise? And it's easier for smaller counties, but this is fairly comparable.
Okay, all right.
And geographically, how big are they?
You know, I don't know. I don't know. If you go up towards Temple and Waco, that's the county that we're talking about. They're up from Austin. But I really couldn't tell you how geographically how big they are.
Find out how far apart their offices are.
I will.
And if every JP office also has a tax collection or treasurer's office
Right.
within the building.
Right, and I think what they had told me was that they have dedicated offices, kiosks, payment over the phone, electronically. So they have a lot of things we're real interested in seeing because, you know, until you see it in practice, it's hard to visualize this kind of a change. And I know the JPs are concerned about issues of authority and responsibility, you know, and making sure that the data isn't, you know, lost in some way, and also the financial responsibility. If you're centralizing, one of the questions they had was, you know, we're statutorily and constitutionally responsible for the monies, but you're not going to let us handle the monies. Well, what safeguards do we have to make sure that everything is being handled appropriately? And that's one of the things we're going to be touching on while we're there.
Also, look at the government code, local government code, and see how it works in conjunction with depositing with the treasurer, because I think there's certain requirements about when money has to be deposited with the treasurer.
Right.
And I think if you're smaller than 50,000, you can do it less often, but if not, you're supposed to, I think, do it like even daily.
Yeah, and we'll look at that as well.
Okay.
Actually,
Any
they
other
have
questions?
five JPs,
5 JPs.
and they're like
1,100 square miles.
So they're about our size.
So I don't know where they are geographically,
But like where the offices are located.
Right.
I mean, size-wise, geographically doesn't necessarily have, I think, as much importance as does every JP office also have a tax office?
Right, which goes to the ease of payment
Right.
as well. Yeah, I understand the point,
Okay.
and we'll certainly look at that.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. So we have had, like I mentioned, and Juan did, we have had very, very good meetings, a lot of concerns that were raised, and we'll try to address as we have addressed them during our meetings. There was also a telephone conversation that was held with Tyler Tech and with IT yesterday to figure the semantics of how this would function, what program guidelines would be in place with the Odyssey system, and how, you know, the roles that everyone would have, the cost that would possibly be associated with this transition, and see what delays, if any, would occur in order to try to get the flow of how this function would actually work. So some of the clarifications that we have had is there was a concern among that was addressed by the JPs as to the transfer of their records, of their judicial record information being made available to another department who would be, in essence, handling their cash collection. And this would be addressed by, this information is restricted or would be restricted to the role or the function that the department that is collecting the cash would actually have. They would be able to view the defendant or the party's information as far as how much does a person owe, how much have they paid, and this is what I'm going to collect, this is what they're going to pay right now. They would not have access to change any or to input any data other than cash received, you know, cash paid, and that would be all. So those would be rights and roles that would be assigned to specific users. So I think that particular issue can be addressed within the program guidelines that it would have. Another concern that was raised was by transferring this function to another department, would they, as elected officials, still be statutorily obligated or, you know, entrusted with this actual cash collection? And they are responsible for reporting and collecting this. What is going to be, in case of a deficiency of the collection, what is going to be their obligation? What are they going to be responsible for? So that is another issue that we will look at. However, I believe enabling legislation is in place where the court can transfer this particular function to another department. So we will work through that and address it as clearly as we can. Another concern was by Commissioners Court exercising this, can we trust the other department to do this function? Is it going to be done effectively, and will they be held accountable? And I know that I feel that what the court is looking at is transferring this function to the tax office, because the tax office has satellite offices at all of the JP locations. This function would be held accountable to the other department. The program guidelines would be in place, the department guidelines would be in place, and any deficiencies that would arise would be noted in real time. If I have a collection today and my report says I collect this money, then here is your money. If I do not have that money to give you today, that deficiency will be noted that particular day. So that deviation or that deficiency will be noted immediately, and it will be held accountable at that point. So we would work in conjunction with the tax office, in conjunction with the JP office, and also with the Odyssey program to get as many internal control issues resolved and get them put in place prior to any of this starting. So I think that particular concern can be addressed very effectively.
Martha, one of the
Yes.
issues, I think, with the commission here is the budget, how the budget would work. And I think one that we talked about, probably privately, was transferring collections clerk from the JP's offices to work under the tax assessor to make it budget neutral as we go forward into the next fiscal year. Was that something that y'all are looking at? We do not need to add new employees to make this happen.
That is a concern that was raised by the JPs as well, that if the court transfers this function to the tax office per se, am I going to lose any of my employees? Because they feel, what I don't speak for them, however, the concern was raised that they would not be receptive to, okay, Commissioner Square, you're going to help me by taking away my responsibility for the cash, but you're taking my employee away. So that is also a concern that was raised by them. We addressed it, or rather I addressed it from the standpoint that as a committee, that is not a decision that we will make. That will be a decision that Commissioners Court, if they decide to pursue this avenue and go in this direction, that is a decision that the court will be responsible for making and negotiating as well. So yes, you're correct, that concern was raised. Another concern that was raised was, I know that the tax office closes their offices at 4:30, so a concern was raised that our constituents going to be able to pay until 5. The response to that is that the tax office closing at 4:30 is done for reconciliation purposes. However, in the transition, I am sure that hours of operation would be accommodated for the needs of the constituents.
Well, they don't pay till 5 now.
I'm sorry?
I mean, some of the JP offices are closed early also.
Probably so.
So, I mean, some of them are closed half days on Fridays. So, I mean, we don't have an 8 to 5 operation that I know of in all the offices.
Some work later during the week also.
That's correct.
So there's different schedules.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And would the tax office stay open? So like if they have truancy court in the evening, is the tax office going to stay open to collect?
I'm sure that those would be issues that could be resolved, if the plan gets implemented. So those would be negotiating points that we would have to address, or rather that would have to be addressed.
And Martha, wouldn't that create more auditing for you, having to reconcile from one office to another? And possibility for more confusion?
Okay, well, I sent out a worksheet yesterday like this. I don't know if you all received it. You should have it in front of you. That details how we see this process being set up and how the benefits of it working. And in that particular instance, due to the Odyssey system and the way it's being implemented and the fact that all of the judicial section departments are going to be using the Odyssey program, our office from a remote location will be able to verify collections in real time because the payments are going to post in real time.
And you wouldn't be able to do that if they continue to do it in the JP courts with Odyssey?
It's not anything that we could just pull automatically and verify at the end of the day. Okay, it would require the program could be set up to where these reports would run automatically, and it's not a function that we are doing right now. But from that standpoint, we probably could do it, but the tax office and the JP offices, and we would be able to run reports in real time data. We would be able to verify deposits within 2 to 3 days because by the time they get to the bank, it would be about 2 or 3 days before they post. But you would have the tax office verifying deposits, the JP could verify their deposits, and we would be able to verify their deposits as well. So it would enhance the control and the accountability at that point.
So does the tax office have software that the JPs don't have in order to do this?
No, I mean, if the court continues in this direction and they set up, the tax office to do the collection, then the tax office will be able to monitor and ensure that the deposits are being made every day because they're going to reconcile each day and send the deposit to the bank.
And the JP's offices don't?
Some of the JP offices do not deposit daily.
I mean, we got a report when was it, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago or 3 weeks
You know,
ago.
that kind of delineated all of that.
Okay, so,
Daily deposits continue to be a problem with JP offices, with
Okay.
some JP offices.
and have you explained to them that's why we're looking at going in this direction?
I have not explained that to them, that is why the court is looking at this, okay? But all deficiencies in deposits and deposits being sent to the bank have been written up in the audit report, so we've addressed with them.
And back to what I was telling Juan earlier, I believe there's a legal requirement that they deposit daily with the treasurer's office. So that might take care of the issue. And maybe the centralized collections, rather than the tax office, might be better done with the treasurer's office, since they're the holder of the money.
Actually, and that's another point that we can also discuss, but with these collections being done in real time and with the deposits being verified within 2 to 3 days, and it's of how it would work, but we would be able to transfer the funds from the collection account, from the deposit account for all JP collections on a daily basis to the treasurer's office.
Because maybe what might be easier, if we're going to be transferring employees, like Commissioner Hernandez said, we transfer those employees directly under the treasurer, so that every day that treasurer's getting the money.
That would be a
And then-
commissioner's court.
And then we don't have the issue of, well, it's paid over here and then send it to the treasurer. The treasurer could be getting it directly as people are paying. And we don't have to worry about more space in the tax office being utilized for another employee or another kiosk or hours. I mean, we could basically designate an employee out of each JP court to fall under the treasurer to actually do that collection, and you could still do this real time. It would just be with the treasurer's office, correct?
It could be, and there would have to be an integration done because the Odyssey program is not connected to our financial software. Rather, Odyssey is for judicial implementation, so there would have to be an integration that would have to be done. But that's you know, an avenue that the court can
Have you
pursue.
visited Bell County yet or not?
No, we will be going on the 14th and the 15th of August, up there.
I have a
So-
question for Pete. If we were to go with this plan, Pete, would there be an additional cost so that Odyssey could connect the integration or whatever the process would be for Odyssey to pick up the information and make this a centralized collection system?
That issue was discussed with Tyler when we spoke yesterday. There would not be any additional training costs because what would actually happen would be whoever the cashier, you know, the collection, let's say the tax office, they would be invited to attend the training for the JP offices. So the training is already being held. All of the computers that the tax office currently has exceed the requirements that the Odyssey system requires. There are probably about maybe 2 or 3 locations that do not have the internet access that they need, so the network connectivity would have to be established. There is a configuration that Odyssey would have to do to the computers that are going to be, you know, working with the program, with the Odyssey program. That would be a configuration that could be done from a remote location. It would probably tie up a computer for a couple of minutes at the very most. So it's anticipated at this time that costs to enact this within Odyssey would be minimal. So that's where we are from that standpoint. I don't know if you have anything to add, Pete.
Is the treasurer on that committee?
To the centralized collection
Yes.
committee? No,
Maybe we need to add him.
that was the court's appointment.
Okay.
So
Well,
that, any more?
Can you put an agenda item for the next meeting to add him? Pete or David? Thanks.
Did you want to address right now, Judge, or wait? Okay.
Commissioners, good morning. I just had a quick comment about, as far as the process for the collections. I found out about it through another JP, and I wish that all the JPs had been given the opportunity to be part of what's going on. This is all new to me today. As far as taking staff, like Commissioner Hernandez said, I'd like to make a point that the collections is a small part of our day. I mean, we still have to enter tickets, we have to enter cases. So if part of the solution is to take staff from each JP, the smaller offices that have 1 and 2 persons working, you know, I don't know how that's going to affect us, I mean, in the long run. But that's just the comment that I had, you know.
I'm sure it'll all be considered. I'm not saying that we're going to take one from it. It's just a consideration at this point in time that they will need staffing to do this. And even 1 or 2 of the JPs have offered staff already to even help man another office or through the collection process. So it's all being discussed right now by this Commissioner's Court to do that. But there's nothing in stone yet.
Yeah, like I said, whatever's going to make it more efficient, I'm for it. It's just, my concern was, when the committee was formed, I just wish more JPs have been given the chance to put their input, and not just the selected few, or, like I said, I found out about it through another JP after the first meeting had already happened. And to me, it affects our office. I feel we should have been a part of that.
Let me ask you a question, because you brought up a point about the small offices. Martha, this is real kind of a fundamental question, but every time we get an audit report, and I ask during the audit committee meeting, the question I ask is the internal controls within the JP offices, and they're never adequate because you don't have enough people. And I can ask you, what does your collection clerk do? You just said they do a lot of functions. And I bet you that clerk does everything. I bet you they take the money, they receipt it, they prepare the deposit, they send it out, it comes back. There's no internal control there.
Yeah, we basically do.
You do everything, okay?
Yes.
That is a fundamental auditing issue, okay? We get criticized by the auditor every single year because we do not have adequate controls. I'm hoping that if we do this and we do transfer it out, I agree with Commissioner Hernandez. I don't think that we should be adding staff to this. I mean, we're already in a budget shortfall as it is. We just cannot afford to start adding more people, you know, for the sake of convenience. I believe that, I don't know about going to the treasurer, I haven't even looked at that yet, but at least Tony's is, you know, it's not his first rodeo. He does this on a regular, that's what he does. And his office will be able to comply, and I bet you that we'll get a better bill from the auditor saying, hey, now the controls are there because you have other people checking this. So maybe with the larger offices, there may be a good segregation of duties. I don't think so. I think you've got, in every JP office, you've got one clerk pretty much doing everything from the beginning. And I don't, now if you're checking these deposits on a daily basis, and if you're checking them, or you have somebody else in your office that's checking those receipts to the bank deposits and back, then you have some system of internal control. But I don't think the JPs are doing that. Or at least I don't think that the smaller ones are.
Not every day. I mean, every now and then, my secretary Liz will tell me, hey, check this over, make sure it's right, so we kind of go over it.
Yeah, but it's only when that clerk asks you.
Yeah, or when we have. You know,
Yeah, or when you have time, which you don't, because you have your hands full.
Yeah, like I said, and the centralized collections, I have no problem with that. It's just, like, all this is new to me, so it's kind of like.
You just don't want to lose staff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, somebody still has to enter cases, enter tickets.
The collection's a small function of everything they're doing, basically.
Yeah, that's just the point I wanted to make.
Thanks, Judge.
Martha, any input?
So that was one of the big concerns that was raised by the JPs or rather that, you know, Judge Gonzalez told us was being raised by the JPs, that they would conceivably look to losing a staff member due to the reallocation or the allocation of this function. And another issue that was raised yesterday was, or day before, was that by opening this window up, is this going to, in the Odyssey program, is this going to allow a JP, a judge from another precinct to dismiss another JP's tickets? Because if we have a violator that goes in and has 10 citations, he's got 5 in one JP, 5 in another, and he's showing up at one JP office and he says, okay, and the judge tells him, okay, you're going to pay mine, then I'm going to dismiss the others. That was a concern that was raised by the judge, and that function is in essence not allowed. And Judge, I guess you may have some input in that. I don't believe that a particular judge has the right or the legal right to dismiss another judge's violations without the acquiescence of the other judge. Is that correct?
Right. Well, in order to dismiss, you actually need to have a motion by the prosecutor to begin with.
Okay.
and with few rare exceptions. For instance, a no insurance citation, the person brings proof in, the court can dismiss it. But just to dismiss a speeding ticket or anything of the sort, you really can't do it. It's done all over the state, but legally it shouldn't be done. As far as another judge doing it, if two judges are in conjunction and agree to swap and hear each other's docket, then one judge can hear a case for another judge. Judge Gonzalez and I used to do it all the time. If he was out, someone came in on a citation for him, I could see the person, hear what they had to say, and assess the fine or whatever. But a judge that doesn't have that relationship with the other judge can't just go in there and dismiss. I mean, if they do, they're looking at getting in trouble anyway.
Right, and it's my understanding that under the Odyssey program, only that particular precinct or that particular judge will have the access to the information, to his information only, not another court's to dismiss or to amend or to change any of the filings on anything.
And you could probably even restrict whatever was going to the collections department, just the person's name and the amount that they owe. Not basically give them carte blanche to look into all the personal data and everything else.
Right.
In other words, Pizza Pulada's name comes up, he owes $600. He owes $200 at precinct 2, $300 at precinct 1, and $100 at precinct 5.
Right. Okay, so that, that function of being allowed to dismiss another, that would not exist because the different offices will not have rights to update or to change any other judge's information. The other concern that was raised by the judges was, will they continue to have full access to all of their files? By taking this function and giving it to somebody else, are they going to have access to their information? In other words, am I as a judge going to be able to see if violator A, B, and C paid for the day or where their history is? Have they paid like they said? Did they not? And the answer to that is these are the individual precinct judges' records, judicial records, and they will have access to all of their information. They will not have access to enter in any payment amounts because they will be restricted from that, but they will have the access to view any and all of their own case information, including the payment history.
So the idea isn't that someone goes up to the judge, sees the judge says, okay, your fine's $200. Here's the judgment. They take that paper and then walk out of that office, go stand in line at the tax office, pay it. By the time they pay it, they get a receipt and then come back to the judge's office to verify that they paid?
Not to verify, and that would be, I mean, the JP doesn't need the violator to come back so that he can verify.
Actually, they do. If there's gonna be a deferral in a case, the statute's real specific saying that you can't defer until the person has paid court costs. So the judge in any deferral that they grant is going to have to verify that the person paid court costs. So they're going to have to leave, go stand in line, pay, come back with the receipt and say, look, judge, I already paid. Without that, the judge legally can't give them deferred.
Well, the court staff will have the judge's staff, the payment is going to post in real time, so the judge's staff will have the availability to just call it up on the screen and see that the payment was received. So
And if there's a problem with the real time or the computers,
They bring a receipt.
those will occur at some point, I'm sure, but they will have a receipt. So that is one concern that was raised, okay? And there was the issue that we've already covered was the opening hours and the closing hours of the cashier being at 4:30. Allow me to go into this schedule, try to make it brief but cover everything. The way that the centralized collection system would work, that we envision it working, with the defendant would go into the JP, be it the defendant or the party to a suit or whatever would go into the JP. The clerk, punishment would be assessed. The clerk would say, okay, this is the amount you have to pay. It would key it into the Odyssey system, saying, the fine amount. The court costs are automatic, so those would be automatically populated. And then the JP clerk would say, go to the cashier to pay. So then the defendant would go to the cashier, pay their cost, and the defendant would get a receipt. At the time the cashier receives the payment, when they document it and receive it and post it to the Odyssey system, the cost will be distributed based on the statute as to where they need to go. So all the court cost distribution at that time will post, and it will post in real time to the defendant's file or to the civil suit party, whichever it is. So the data would post. The cash receipt would be distributed. The cashier would close her till at the end of the day. The till would be verified and reconciled. The deposit amount, the till collection would then go to the main teller. The main teller will again document, verify, and reconcile. The teller, the main cashier, would prepare the deposit, and then the deposit gets picked up by armored car. The enhancement from an internal control standpoint is that deposit collections would be verified in real time. Any deficiencies would be noted within the same day, and it would not be in a one-man or a two-person office. They would have multiple sets of eyes looking at it and verifying it. Revenue can be processed and can be tracked much quicker. We would have a better accountability. Internal control of county assets being collected would be greatly enhanced. And again, deficiencies would be identified in real time. The question that we have here presently is we do not have a definite go-live date at this time. The go-live date for Odyssey was initially set up to be in January. That has been delayed, and we do not know at what time this will occur now due to the net data information not being available. So I'm unsure how that particular venue is going to be determined. Some of the program clarifications that I would like to address is that Odyssey...
Are we talking about centralized collections or Odyssey?
Well, the only way that this centralized collection program will work will be if Odyssey is in place for all the JPs.
Okay.
So that's the kicker.
So the software being used is Odyssey, not something that the tax office has?
That is correct. Okay. Yes.
When there be any problem with the employee, let's say we create a collections department, do they have to be in the tax office, or can they still be right there at the JP's office where the window is, where people are going to?
The only location that would require any structural modifications would be the Brownsville building, because the JP offices are on the judicial side and the tax office is in the admin side. So there would, in order not to inconvenience constituents and make them go into another building, there would have to be some structural modifications made in that, and on the second floor, on the judicial building, to have a clerk there more easily accessible to the constituents.
But that wasn't my question. My question is, let's just say that we create a collection department.
It could be done, yes, like
in
you
each
said.
JP court, there's going to be one person that all they do is the collections aspect of it. Whether they work under the treasurer, they work under the tax assessor, county administrator, whatever. And that person, is there any problem with that person being in the same office where the JP court is right now, where there's a collection window right now?
We have not looked at that. One thing that I would point out is that we're trying to separate the cash collection, and I know that the tax office has been preparing in advance for growth within their collection, and they do have workstations, multiple workstations at a number of locations already, and we haven't thought about that.
But to answer my question, does that work?
I imagine it could be.
Because like right now, in the county and district courts, you have the court staff, but in the county courts, there's a clerk, and in the district courts, there's a clerk.
Right.
And the clerk actually takes care of the function of receiving
district clerk.
papers and whatnot. The clerk also collects money. They're not staff of the court. Aurora's office has people that have the
Right.
collections up front. They don't work for the judge, but there's a clerk in each court.
Right.
Is there any problem doing that with the JP courts?
None that I know of. That would have to be that would have to be discussed.
And the software is going to be used by Odyssey, which is the same software that the JPs already have in there anyway.
Yes, it would be implemented through the Odyssey. That's the only way this will function.
And right here you have in your sheet that you handed out that these clerks, the cashier will attend JP training.
Yes.
So if they're going to do everything as a JP and the courts are concerned about, well, why is this person going to have to go somewhere else to pay? That might solve the problem. Say, you know what, Judge, this person is still going to be in your office, but you have one designated to collect.
Mm-hmm. Right, and if this is pursued and there is a transition of employees, then the employees are already attending training as well.
Martha, is there a JP on that committee?
The appointment was either Judge from 2-2 in Brownsville or the 2 in Harlingen. And Judge Cano deferred to Sally, to Judge Gonzalez, being the rep, and Judge Hodge referred to a staff member. So, yes, we have representatives from both
Is
JPs.
one committed to going to Bell County?
Judge Gonzalez, Sally Gonzalez is committed to going.
Okay, good. As long as one of them goes,
Yes.
a JP,
And Judge Hodge couldn't go?
Judge Hodge deferred to his employee, to his appointee. His appointee also wanted to go, indicated a desire to attend. However, I had designated and approved a committee of 5, so we have 5. If the court wants to consider an additional person, we can.
Okay.
And in interest of frugality.
Yeah. As long as, you're taking Sally, that's fine.
She'll bring back enough for everybody.
She did indicate she was there as a representative for all of the judges.
That's right. See the smiles on the JPs in the court.
Don't look like smiles to me.
I don't know if the court has any other questions regarding this. We do have a trip set up for August 14th through the 15th to go and visit with the Office of Court Administration and with Bell County as well. They have been kind enough to leave themselves open all day for us if we do need it. And they're very excited about their program, and we're looking forward to visiting with them and sharing ideas.
Tell them we thank them for sharing their time.
Friends of Cameron County.
Some of us have donated to that county already.
Anything else, Martha?
That's all I have, unless anyone would like to address anything in particular.
All right. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
By Commissioner Hernandez, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Let me introduce Commissioner Joseph Palacios, who came from Hidalgo County for an item that's already been approved, but I want him to say a few words, and he's a good friend to Cameron County and a good friend of mine. Good to see you.
Judge, Commissioners, Joseph Palacios, Hidalgo County Commissioner, Precinct 4. Obviously, I came here thinking that I was going to have to convince you all of passing that resolution of support, but obviously you see in the spirit of partnerships, we've been able to do a lot of things quite recently. We've had 2 resolutions of support for Cameron County, one being that of the second causeway over to South Padre Island, the other one recently that LNG facility out of the Port of Brownsville. But we are excited about discontinuing the race to getting 281 versus 77 interstate ready. We understand that both governments have done, along with the RMAs, have done their due diligence on getting all those corridors interstate ready. From what I see on the notes, $1.2 billion has been invested throughout Highway 77, 83, and 281. We see that this resolution and working together and providing that corridor through 77, 83, and up to 281 is obviously going to spur up economic development, connectivity between our communities, and at the end of the day, obviously economic development. So we really appreciate from the bottom of our heart. I'm representing all of Commissioners Court, and we really appreciate your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Joseph.
Thank you for coming, Commissioner.
Working with you on any other issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, man. Tell everybody hi. All right, thanks.
Pues sí.
Item G, consideration and possible action regarding the publishing of elected officials' maximum compensation for the 2012-2013 fiscal year.
Do you want to do this one first, or you want to do the budget discussion first? The one after.
This is not
It's up to you.
changing, right?
What's there?
Well, let's, okay, I mean, we can, why don't we discuss it both? I mean, because they're both going to be interrelated. Discussion of possible action regarding the fiscal year 2012-2013 budget.
Judge and Commissioners, I left before you the update. I also sent one out, I believe it was yesterday, to where we're currently at.
I think the computer systems were down.
Oh,
At
yeah, I
least
believe
for
so,
us.
in Harlan, in
Yeah.
San Benito. Yeah, I heard that. So what we
So
have.
This is the most current?
That's the most current. That's as of today. The revenues, I'll start at the top of the general fund. The revenues actually changed slightly. I'm not sure if y'all saw the email earlier this week. The revenues were reduced by just over $182,000 due to the an application was not submitted for the SCAP reimbursement program, and so we had $182,000 budgeted for revenues for that, and since that application was not submitted, we had to back that out of the projected revenues for next fiscal year.
Before we go any further, okay, I got an email from Mike Leonard, or a copy of one from Mike Leonard, and one from, I believe, yourself, or from Martha. So ultimately, who or what department is in charge of applying for these SCAP funds?
When the SCAP program was first initiated, probably back in 1993 or 94, our office handled the application for about 4, maybe 5 years. After that, the sheriff's office was handling it directly. And our input, or rather our involvement with it, has been in the past is to give them the financial information that is required as far as to what are the detention costs, what is the cost of the guards, and the staff relative to running the operation. That information is given to the sheriff's office, to the jail division annually, and at that point they submit the application. This application, the first notice that I received I believe was yesterday or the day before, and well, when you receive the emails, and I had a call from one of the lieutenants wanting to know when was the application period for the SCAP program. I advised them that I was unaware of when the application period was, but that I Googled it online, and that's when I read to them that the application process was open and that the application needed to be submitted. The deadline for submission was July the 6th of this year.
And I guess my question then is, your office has always initiated the process of giving them the information so that they can apply. So did that happen this year?
How this information is usually relayed to the jail division is we will receive an email notification that from the Office of Justice Programs or from the SCAP program that the SCAP process is now has started. There was no notification received of this application period at all. I've reviewed everything, and there was no notice. Nothing was received. I know that at times
Well, nothing was received in your office. But
nothing was received in our
somebody in the county
office.
should have received notice. I mean,
Normally, we do not get it directly. We get the information via another office, and then at that point we receive it, and then we would forward it to the jail.
Who do they typically notify?
I believe that they have. I'd have to look. I don't know at this point. I'd have to verify it. I can check last year's and see.
And is it the same time every year that this typically happens?
I generally it would run about the same time, I would imagine.
Okay, so is there anything we can put like on the calendar, an annual reminder, apply for SCAP?
At this point, we can. It's not going to help us for FY13.
And then whose obligation? Is that a sheriff department obligation? Is that a auditor obligation? Or, where does it fall in?
It falls under the, actually, it's an application. It's an application that gets submitted online, and it has the county judge's name on it. It has my name on it as the CFO. It's got
normally Mike Leonard was doing this, right?
The jail division would do this,
Mike Leonard
yes.
was doing it, okay? Mike was gone there for a period of time.
Retire, rehire?
Right. So I guess no one answered his emails, because I would presume that he was the one that
Got notice maybe?
noticed,
I don't.
because he brought it up to you on that email that we all
Correct.
courtesy copy.
And you said that someone had called to ask you when the deadline was and you Googled it? When was that?
On the day that the email was sent, which was
Monday.
yesterday or Tuesday? Tuesday,
After the fact?
after the fact, yes.
Okay. Wow. I guess we dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Is there any provisions for a late application?
I believe it's stipulated that they were not.
It's stipulated that there would be no extensions granted to the filing deadline.
And that's the Department of Justice?
Office of Justice Programs.
It might warrant still making a phone call for Mike Leonard or somebody in the jail division.
It wouldn't hurt to try.
I'll see what information we have so we can communicate.
And explain to them that every year we get notice and that we didn't get notice this year.
I really don't understand what happened with, as to why we did not. I would presume that they would have sent it out to all entities.
That being the case, Martha, do we have a list of all grants and any type of funding that we get that we could maybe put on a calendar with some deadlines? That way we have reminders.
Normally, the programs that, the departments that have their own federal and state grants are very, very on top of all this information and their deadlines.
But just to,
We can't,
I mean,
yes,
if
it's
it
a
happened
double.
this time, and Mike's usually good about being on top of everything,
And don't misunderstand, I'm not shifting the blame and saying it was Mike Leonard.
I blame all of us because we are Cameron County. But I mean, to try to avoid something like this happening again, maybe we can, as part of your auditing controls, you can put something in there so that everybody, implement some sort of calendaring reminder system or something.
Other duties is assigned.
I went ahead and changed the format a little bit on this, and I went ahead and included a couple of things so you can get an overall picture of where we're at. So here I went ahead and included the additional tax revenue based on our current tax rate that we're under right now, and so that's the additional $1.3 million in revenue. And I'm backing out the $700,000 for the half a penny to Road and Bridge. I kind of feel that the court, and I could be wrong, intends to do that. And so then I have the total, the expenditures of $73 million. Then I have the restoration of $200 annually to the insurance premium to the health insurance fund. That's an additional $236,000. Then I have
Is that 200 or 100?
236. It was $118,000 per $100. So that's $200 worth. We're at 44, and that would put it at 46 annually per employee.
Okay.
Yes. Then I have here the reduction of the $200,000 of the DAs. The transfers are the same in and out, and so that leaves the general fund at a deficit of just over $220,000. That does not include any new positions or salary increases. And the pretrial release match is that amount that's being requested is still in question.
Javier, excuse me. On the pretrial release, though, do you have a minimum number?
I have the same from this year.
Is that,
currently.
but that's already up here?
Correct.
Okay, so, but they're asking for an additional amount of money, right?
Correct.
Do you have that number?
I believe here? There it is.
I mean, I just want to be able to plug as much numbers as we can so
right
we know
now
what we're looking at.
Right now, we have $126,000 as a match.
An additional?
Currently in the budget.
That's what we, no, it's 126,000 we already have in the budget.
In the budget right now.
But they're suggesting that they may need a little bit more. What is that number?
I believe it was, Judge, good morning.
Hi, how you doing?
I believe it was 118 at one time. We have two outstanding POs pending. One's due August. It's on the Polycom system.
I just want to know, instead of a question mark, I want to see what the dollar is.
Okay. I think if we're at
excuse me, if the budget remains at the same level that it was for this fiscal year 12, and projecting that they would bring in only 100,000 of bond fees, that would require an additional $137,922.
On top of what we already have budgeted. So
On
would
top
it be,
of
would it,
The
126,000.
right, so what number would go where the question mark goes?
The 126,000, no, what, 120,
137.
138,000.
138,000.
Okay. Now, that's in addition to the, that's to the 126, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and we're bringing in how much in I mean, I don't want to, but you know what, there's more to this than just looking at the numbers and saying, well, you know what, you're bringing in 100,000, but we're spending 250,000 to get that 100,000.
Correct. There's also the issue of the inmates that are being
Right,
released.
and that's that intangible that we really don't have a good number for, but we have to factor that in, so how much we're saving and not having, you know, getting these inmates out quickly.
And deflecting us from a lawsuit by getting proper indigent defense.
You know, and I think this was supposed to be a wash, pretty much, and just, you know, but it was a good deal. But we have to look past that in terms of how much are we saving by not having to ship inmates out because they're getting out quicker because of this program.
One of the other things, and I don't know if you track this or not, Martha, but I know that like some of these indigent defendants that end up going to court and getting assessed probation or whatever also end up having to pay attorney's fees. Is that collected back to this department, or does it go to attorney's fees, or how does that work? Because that's where the budget comes from.
It goes to a general fund where the indigent defense trial costs are for the attorneys. So it is in general fund.
That was an additional 165.
100,000 plus.
Raise an additional 100,000 or so.
That gets charged to the defendants.
Right. So, I mean, that's and money we've actually realized and collected.
That's in general fund, yes.
Okay. Is there any way that we could maybe direct that money back to pretrial?
Yeah. And actually, I was, initially this was set up separately because of grant funding that we received from the state. You know, if the court is going to believes that in the program and wants to continue to fund it, I don't see why it would be a problem just to absorb it into the general fund if part of those fees are being are going there anyway, and then the other fees are being collected would just go to the general fund. And
So just make everything general fund and it'll wash?
Correct.
Well, it's not going to wash.
It's not going to wash because right now because those revenues are already in the general fund,
Right.
and the expenditures are part of those revenues over here, and the expenditures are over here.
But aren't some of the expenditures though grant funded?
Not anymore. No.
So we're all general fund. Okay.
And the fees.
Okay.
Well, as we go through this process, I just want to make sure that we have the whole picture.
Right.
Before we can make a decision as to, are we going to add another $138,000? Because now we're up to over $400,000, almost $500,000 shortfall.
You know, initially when we got those grant funds and we set up this program, the whole idea was to have a grant fund that would allow us to set up the program, get it in place, get it going, and allow it to become a self-sustaining program as we lost grant funding.
Or absorb it into the general fund?
Well, it was supposed to be a self-sustaining where the monies coming in would be a wash with what it would cost to operate. But in the meantime, it's gotten to be expensive to operate, and I know we blame the economy,
Well,
we
actually-
blame the lack of jobs, we blame all these things about not being able to collect. The bottom line is, we've had to subsidize the program from the general fund, you know, more than we ever anticipated we would have to.
Is it realistic though, Commissioner, that
I
we?
don't know. I just said how we were presented this program when we put it in place.
Well, actually, when we brought it before the Commissioners Court on the initial, when we implemented the program, the idea was, along with indigent defense attorneys, we would implement the direct filing system. And it's taken us a while. We were there for a while. We're there now. That coupled along with, 40 writs of habeas corpus being filed per week, that represents at least 20 to 25 people being released per week out of our jails. On top of that, we have the attorney's fees that are assessed, an additional $100 and some odd thousand. So if you really look at 20 people per week coming out of our jails, it's 80 a month. That's $40 a day. You multiply that yearly, that's more than a wash. We're actually saving this county quite a bit of money, not to mention the bonds that we write. You know, right now we're sitting at about 365 bonds.
Well,
365.
but the reality, though, too, I think we're losing focus is this is indigent defense. And indigent defense can't be looked at as a moneymaker or a wash. The whole reason for having it is people don't have the money. And part of the issue here is because of Rothbury versus Gillespie, we need to be proactive in trying to avoid us as a county getting sued for not providing what we have to legally.
Well, Rothbury versus Gillespie County was a Supreme Court ruling in 2008. So that's a big one, yeah.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if we're looking at it as, you know, realistically, we can choose not to do it, but then there's going to be consequences in the forms probably of lawsuits. And you know how those go. Once one inmate goes, before you know it, there's a domino of everybody suing. So but the mere fact that we have this program implementation going, and
Yes.
even if it ends up costing us little money, and you're right, Kevin, I think it saves us a lot of money, we have to look at what our obligation is. It's like indigent health care.
To answer Commissioner Gus's question, it's a fair question, it's a good question. But I quite frankly, I think that per year, we stop and look at how much we're actually saving the county and raising the county, actually raising monies through bonds and through attorney's fees assessed. We're actually coming out on top. We really are. Because if it wasn't for the writs of habeas corpus being filed and the pretrial bonds being filed, we'd have a lot more people in jail right now. And I mean a lot more.
Well, that's why I mentioned that we need to look at the whole picture, not just these numbers here, because there's some backdoor savings here that we're not looking at, and which are getting these inmates out quickly.
I can put together a report and send it to each one of you. That'd be good. I'd be happy to do that for you.
Yeah, I just in the future, just put that amount in there, so we're looking at a little bit more realistic.
So it's actually 264,000 that we're looking for.
138 more.
138 more.
Okay.
Yeah. So, right. So that, if you were to include that, that would change the deficit to
About 400, almost
358.
400.
Yeah, almost $400,000.
Right.
I have listed there, of course, the increases. For $1,000, it's 1.5. $750 per employee is $1.125 million. Let me jump to the road and bridge real quick. The revenues are the same. The additional tax revenue at the current rates, an additional $220,000, and then you would also increase the $700,000 from the tax rate transfer, the expenditures, and then of course the health insurance would leave an overage of $372,000, which I would imagine would go to road materials. And then the salary increases for road and bridge, and there's two there because I believe Commissioner Sanchez had asked for public works. So for the whole road and bridge fund, it's $162,000. Just for public works, it's $121,000. And the 750 is $122,000, and just public works is $90,700. This is where we are today. I don't anticipate the expenditures changing too much. We will be filing the recommended budget next week.
But how are you going to balance
by
it?
the 10th?
Yeah,
we have to figure that out. well,
you can't
there's not a lot of
file-
places. I don't know that there's one expenditure that's still kind of looming. I think that has to do with a maintenance agreement with interoperability.
Yeah, was that up or down?
Up, so it'll increase it somewhat.
So it'll increase the deficit.
Slightly, yeah. I don't know. The revenues are not gonna look at it.
So it just gets redder.
Redder, and so basically the only place we have to go is tax. Yeah.
You got to what? You got to shift it?
You can actually, because road and bridge has a surplus right now. You could shift it and you'd be balanced. Of course, the road materials are going to be where they're at.
So we're going to punish road and bridge?
So
Well, but Road and Bridge has been punished for a long time. I mean, you know, by not
Again.
paying them
But-
back.
I didn't finish again.
Yeah, as I've always mentioned, this is, you know, what's proposed, what's finally gets adopted is usually pretty different from what gets.
No, but I think it's
recommended,
important to know where you're going to go to balance it right now.
Right.
Okay, so are
It's
you?
either
are
that
you-
or the tax rate, or bump up the tax rate slightly in order to.
Okay, since we
balance
haven't
it.
published any of that, so I guess what you're going to do is kind of play with the tax rate in the Road and Bridge, and that's going to be your balance,
Correct.
right?
Correct. And I just received final numbers from the appraisal district in reference to the, or through the tax office, in reference to the TIFs. And so I needed those numbers in order to finish calculating the effective and rollback rate. So you should have that today or tomorrow morning. And then I'll send out that notice to the court, because we also need to advertise that in the newspaper.
Just
and post it on the
so
website.
I'm clear, Javier, the 372,000 that is favorable in the Road and Bridge, you're gonna basically zero that number out and shift the applicable tax rate over to general fund to balance out your, let's say, 358,000.
Correct.
It
And
almost-
the tax rate will remain, will be the
The
same.
tax rate remains the same, you're just
Correct.
shifting it back.
Correct.
So you're saying that you're gonna support
No, what I'm saying is,
shifting
that-
some of the half penny, but not all the half penny?
well, no, what I'm saying is that that's what he needs to present a balanced budget. We
Right.
still
As far
have
as
to
what we'll
adopt
be
the
filing as
tax rate
recommended.
and where it goes.
I mean, y'all still have to decide.
And that's
which one
without
you
giving the Road and Bridge employees an increase, right? We're going to
Without
take
giving
that
anyone-
money
correct.
without giving them the increase.
And like, as I've said, this is what we will file as the recommended.
Right.
The changes will come.
With no
whenever
tax
y'all
rate
decide
increase.
what y'all want to do.
Correct.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Those tough decisions we have to make.
Yes. It's a time
Yeah,
of
I've been
year.
doing them a
I
while.
mean, it's
It's
just a
painless.
recommended budget, so we
Correct.
work on it through the process.
Okay?
I'll note your recommendations.
What else?
Thank you.
What else you got? Let's go back and now that we're talking about, why don't we're not sure what we're going to be able to do with employees at this point. I don't see anything happening here based on what you're presenting without, in other words, I don't believe that we can give a raise without a tax increase of a penny or so. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So in order to safeguard, I mean, I guess we have to decide what the court wants to do. You keep the elected officials at zero, or do you want to anticipate that we're going to have some kind of a windfall of 1.5 million and include the, $1,000 raise to the elected official, with the exception of Commissioner's Court, but all the other employees of $1,000 as a maximum. If it doesn't happen, we can roll it back, right? Because if we do it, if we put zero now, and then somehow we find a way to give employees a
then you
raise,
can't.
and we can't do elected
Yeah,
officials.
You're advertising the maximum that you're going
Right,
to
so we can always,
consider setting
we
it.
can always take a step back versus a step forward when it comes to their raises, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, well, let me hear a motion to acknowledge
Judge, if I may,
Blah.
I have two points that I'd like to bring up. I know that there was discussion prior to this meeting regarding the equalization of pay for the court interpreters. If you recall, the district courts court interpreters were at a salary of $34,136, and the court at law interpreter was at $42,091. So
How
I
did
know-
that happen, though?
I can tell you, what happened is Judge Robles used to have one of his employees that would do interpreting. So she got an additional stipend of about $8,000 because she was the interpreter of the court. When Judge Robles left, his clerk left with him, and so the court hired a new clerk, but that new clerk wasn't an interpreter. So at some point, they budget or whatever shifted that $8,000 to the interpreter that was handling the other courts for the additional court that they were now going to handle. The problem we've run into, and I've met with Judge Uresti on this and with several of the judges, Judge Migdalia Lopez, is that at the courthouse right now, other than that interpreter for the county courts of law, there's 3 other positions for the district courts. And those 3 other positions, one of them is vacant right now because one of the persons working there went ahead and retired. Since she retired, no one has wanted to apply for the interpreter position because it pays so low. Court interpreters can freelance and make a lot more money. What I did is I asked the court interpreters that are there, of the people that were looking to apply or considering working with the county, can you get me a statement of what a commensurate salary they would consider applying for with the county if we had that salary? So we got 2 letters. I met with Pete and David and Judge Uresti, and those letters, I don't even remember what the numbers were, but do you remember, Pete?
I didn't bring them with me, but I have the letters. I think one of them was 50,000 and the other one was 60 or 65. At this point, this would bring the salaries up to 42,091, and with related fringe, it would, the total cost to general fund to equalize the salaries for 2 interpreters for the trial courts would be $15,910.
But just equalizing 2 or all 3, even the vacant position?
Well, the other one is under contract.
Okay, so would we increase the contract as well?
I need to speak to the judge about that.
How long has it been vacant?
I believe he's looking at it.
How long has that position been vacant?
It's been vacant since December.
Maybe we ought to eliminate it.
Since December.
Well,
well, they've had to, I think they've had to utilize, they've had to call in an interpreter.
And what happens is statutorily, the courts can actually appoint someone and then we're obligated to pay them. And if they start doing that, the bills that we're going to get are probably going to be way beyond what it would cost us just to fund these positions at a commensurate pay. I think what's happened is historically, because these interpreters are under the judicial, whatever, there's like a fund just in general for judicial, right? Or maybe they're under Judge Uresti, I'm not sure, but whenever there's been increases in general, I don't think they've gotten increases with the times. Now there's actually new requirements for court interpreters that didn't exist in the past. With new requirements come new education, and again, people are going to want to get paid more than you know what we're paying. I think at the federal courthouse, interpreters get like $90,000 and probably don't spend as much time interpreting. And so I think, you know, if we're going to do this, let's do it right and maybe bring everybody up to that 50,000 or whatever it is. I know it's a big increase, but it's an increase that probably should have been done either over the years or a long time ago. It's like asking, you know, Bruce to be able to hire a lawyer and pay him $30,000 where everywhere else a starting lawyer might be making 45 or 50. You know, no one's going to want to come work, especially if they can get paid more just doing freelance.
Right, so that is one particular point that I would like to bring, and I don't know what the courts wants us to, what, do they want the rates kept the same, or do we equalize?
My
Because they're at the same.
recommendation would be to bring them up to what the standard is, and even if maybe you need to check Hidalgo County or, you know, Nueces or I mean, something on the border, because some of the counties further up north may not need as much full-time interpretation. But, you know, I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that if we don't do this and the judges start appointing summarily, we could end up with big bills that we're not budgeted for that we're going to have to pay.
Right. Okay, then we will incorporate and standardize the rate of pay.
And for the contract individual, I think what happened there, the person that's contracted is actually married to the county court at law interpreter.
Right.
And so in order to maximize, I guess, or get a little more pay, he agreed to do contract because it would save the county money and not having to match for all the benefits. So in doing that, he puts a little more money in his pocket. He doesn't get the benefits, but he gets them by being the spouse of the county employee. He's able to get health. He just doesn't get retirement. So if we're going to increase for the other positions, we probably need to anticipate the increase for him as well, because then you're going to have the factor of, well, why are they getting it and not me?
I don't have a problem with you factoring to the budget. I want to get a letter, though, from the district judges. I'm very uncomfortable with having a commissioner. I mean, I've got no problem with you, if you weren't a lawyer practicing, there'd be fine, but I'm not comfortable with, with any lawyer commissioner that's speaking to the district judges on budgets when you got to vote on it and advocating. I'd rather get a letter from the district judge or a county court of law judge making this request of the commission. I just think it's just a cleaner thing and not putting you in the spot advocating for them when you may have something in front of them tomorrow. And I mean, that's my personal thought. And I've got just a real problem with that. I'd rather have them write something directly to the commission, not necessarily to me, but to the commission requesting it and why is one.
Okay,
So ask them to do that.
I believe when I first came on, you wanted me to be the liaison to the courts, the commissioner on this court that was the person dealing with the courts and the constables.
Well, I think that was for budgetary purposes and stuff. I mean,
Well, that's what this is.
Yeah, but you know what? That was a mistake, probably. I mean, I just never looked at it in the terms that there may be an appearance of a conflict. I mean, I'm just trying to do it to protect the integrity of us as a body, and you're not getting into a jam that you're advocating for a budget.
Pete and David were there, and as far as I'm concerned, if we don't do it and the judges just start appointing, we're going to have to pay
Oh yeah,
the bill.
I don't think that's the issue.
So if you don't want to do it, I mean, and I'll abstain in the vote if that makes you more comfortable.
I'd just rather get something from them, or from.
I'll request it from.
Yeah, just let them know. And I think you may open up a Pandora's box, because I mean we've talked about certain people getting raises and others not. Commissioners brought up that they have that. Now here, all of a sudden we're going to give a spot that's been vacant for 6 months or 7 months an increase of 15,000 or 8, whatever the number is, and where does it stop? That's my concern.
I can make a general comparison as to my staff and everybody else's staff being equal across the board as far as the amount of work they do. One may have more road miles, but the work is equally distributed between the 4 counties as far as responsibilities and duties, and yet there's a discrepancy in the amount of pay that different offices make, and I don't think that's right either. I think it should be equalized. So we can go on and on about this, Judge, and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think there are some not conflicts, but issues that we all have to bring, and I think hopefully we'll have some budget hearings to talk about this. And there was one other thing.
These are them.
Well, there's one other thing I'd like to bring up that was brought up to me a while back when I first got here, and I didn't mention it last year, and I'd like to mention it today, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot or embarrass anybody, but I've basically looked at all the salary schedules, and I see the only 2 officials here, besides the JPs and the constables, that have auto allowances are Aurora de la Garza and Joe Rivera, and I would like to see, like was done in the past, their car allowances shifted as part of their salaries, if they would agree to that. And I think that would be much cleaner for everybody, except for the JPs and just the only ones that have car allowances right now are the JPs and the 2 elected officials. If you could shift the $5,400 car allowance to Aurora's salary and to Joe's salary, I think that would probably be better for us and probably better for them.
And why wouldn't we shift all of them?
Well, we've done the others in the past. You've done, Tony, as the others in the past.
Right, yeah, but why would we not
If the
shift?
other JPs would like to do it, I have no problem doing that either.
I mean, just shift it all into salaries.
But I think, I guarantee you, as a elected official, if I had both, I think I'd rather have it in salary because it kicks up my retirement just a little bit as far as what I would receive at the end of the year as far as the match.
Well,
yeah, that's just my opinion.
Make it redder.
Yeah, not much, though. This if you're talking about a few dollars.
Yeah.
But I have no problem. You want to shift them all, we can shift them all.
well, no, again, just in talking with
You voted on this.
Commissioner Sanchez.
My county,
Yeah.
So you've allowed this before.
no, my county clerk, I think, wants to make a statement.
Judge and Commissioners.
Excuse me, Joe, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
Standardizing salaries. Somehow, in the last 5 years, we were tied together with the tax collector, district clerk, and the county clerk. But intentionally or unintentionally, tax collector is now making $7,200 more than we do. and I think that's a little bit unfair. And I wish that you would consider putting us at the same level as the tax collector. We run probably two of the best offices in the state of Texas. We've been recognized. We have good staffs, and we're good managers. So I wish that you consider that. And so we're talking about salaries for employees. Our employees, all the county employees, have had to bite the bullet 5 years in a row. You know, you've asked us to do almost the impossible, and they've done the work and hadn't had a raise in 5 years.
Let me clarify that. Marta, I think, were you going to clarify that in terms of, I didn't think it'd been 5 years that they hadn't gotten raises. Is that true?
It's been 4.
Okay.
4
All right.
years.
Well, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're,
Yeah,
that we're
4
speaking
years.
accurately.
And it's a little bit unfair to the county employees. They work like a son of a gun, you know, to keep the doors open and working day in and day out, and I think they deserved a pay increase. Okay?
Thank you, Joe. Well, you know, you're here, you're looking at the numbers, and, you know, I'm trying to get, you know, our revenue producer, Javier, or Marta, to figure out where it is.
Trying to squeeze money out of them.
How many employees do you have versus the tax office?
We've got 56.
Tax office?
You guys approved the salary schedule. It tells you right there.
Can I get a number?
I know that the county clerk and the county will be like 4 years.
Now 67.
67. And is that the reason that
He's also younger,
the
Joe.
tax assessor makes 13,000 more than the clerks?
I think what happened was, well, before I came on board, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Izaguirre, you came to the court, you had an auto allowance, and you requested that it be put into your salary. Then when I came on board, probably 2-3 years ago, I think you had another auto allowance that had transpired through the years, and again, you asked that it be put into your salary, and I think that's what, you know, bumped you up, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think anybody has a problem with that. It was
No.
granted. My point was it was
But
granted
it
before.
has to
Why
be
couldn't
fair
it be
for
granted
everybody.
again?
Yeah, I can't, I mean, this is the time.
It's strictly a question. I'm not
Right.
demanding it
If
be
you're
done.
going to
I'm
do
just
it,
saying
I mean, this is the time to do it, because you'd have to advertise it that way.
Okay.
So
That's
I'll
why you
let
had to do it
you
today,
know.
pretty much.
Historically, Martha, or does anybody know why there's such a gap in the salaries of the assessor and the clerks?
Basically, I believe is, as Commissioner Benavides
Tony, why
stated, I mean, right now, they currently are receiving an auto allowance. So if you add the auto allowance into their salaries, into the clerks,
That
they would
puts
be
them at what?
77.
77.
So they're about $7,000
difference.
off.
Yeah.
Grievance, where you grieve to the committee.
You grieved, how much was the increase that you grieved for? 5,000? And did y'all grieve at that time?
That was done by Commissioner's Court when they gave him an additional $7,200.
That was the auto.
That was the auto allowance.
That was the auto allowance.
I think it only had to go before the Community Committee. I know that. It was
rolled in. It's a second issue, right?
You got the proposal this year, and that's when we got, I think,
That's what I saw.
far out. And, 2 years, we got an additional $7,200, which is good. Wonderful, that, he deserves everything that he gets.
But that process is available every year that we go through this, the grievance process.
Yes, but someone has to go before the grievance committee, and others don't. And that's what I'm talking about being fair.
So the 7,200 didn't go through the grievance committee?
The auto allowance did not.
How much, so the auto allowance was 7,200?
I don't know what the auto allowance was, but whatever the auto allowance was.
Since then, it's got the $7,200 transfer over to salary.
Why would he have a higher auto allowance than you?
That's our predecessor's question. I have no
What?
idea.
Was that an auto allowance of 7,200, Martha?
I believe so, yes.
Any reason why it would have been 7,200 versus 54 like everyone else?
Well, you know, I mean,
It
it
was
might
something
have
that was
been,
requested.
it might have been, and I can't historically remember everything, but it might have been that the county treasurer, Tony's office, Texas Assessor Collector had like, how many satellite offices?
13.
9 offices all around the county. I don't believe, to my knowledge, that the county clerk or the district clerk has those many offices throughout the county. You know, I mean, there had to be some rational justifications. Joe, you
higher.
got offices like in how many places? 4 places. The district clerk offices, how many? At least 2, 3
San
maybe?
Benito.
You know?
In here.
Yeah, San Benito in here, which is 2 offices. So that might have had something to do with it, you know. I don't re-
We have 4 officers plus police and medical every tax collector's office.
Right, yeah. So, you know, but I imagine that might have had something to do with it. I can't recall, Commissioner Sanchez,
So-
exactly.
Yeah, I
If
guess
we
my-
transfer that money over, the 5,400, that puts them at what? 77?
Yeah.
76,875.
And then how much more would we need to equalize them to the assessor collector?
I don't think that's the issue, Dan. I think the point after that would be that they should go through the grievance procedure. If Tony went through the grievance procedure to get it, then everybody else should too, but at least right now, let's close the gap on the auto allowance. That's my concern. And I say that today because they have to be able to publish something, you know, in the paper
I
tomorrow.
don't have a problem with your request.
Okay.
And I know that, you know, Cameron County doesn't pay what our neighboring counties pay.
But we
in
also
county
don't
salaries.
tax what they tax.
You know, right, but we don't pay what other counties pay. Whether you take the JPs, in most cases, the other guys in neighboring counties
They
are
make
making.
100,000.
Yeah, they make close to 100,000, twice as much.
The commissioners too.
The commissioners make more than twice as much. The county judge.
I'm not asking for a raise, I'm
more
just
than-
saying.
You know, I mean, so we're not saying that we want to get there, but I think all of us have the grievance process.
Sure. Well, and I think we should take it one step at a time. You know, last year was the year when you finally got
Well, let
up.
me-
This year, we're not real far in the hole.
Let's go ahead and hear a let me go ahead and entertain a motion to just go ahead and transfer the auto allowance. It's going to be a small increment
Yeah,
in
just
terms
for
of,
the
we're out.
fringe that's associated with it.
Okay, so it's not that big a deal, so,
I would say everybody, for us to authorize it for everybody, and if they choose not,
But here's-
contingent upon whether they want to, you all call them, and if they want to
Well,
switch it over,
I
fine.
need to know,
She needs to- look.
because this is going to run in the newspaper on Sunday. So I need to know, I need to know what y'all, because y'all are the ones who are
let's.
going to set up the hearing. in
Hold
order
on,
to set these
let me
salaries.
do this. Let me ask for a motion first on the county clerk and the district clerk.
So move.
By Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Hernandez. Discussion.
Yeah, I think we should try to get them closer to the assessor collector's salary. I mean, they have 3 large departments. I think there's no doubt that, you know, they all work hard for the county. And if the disparity was created by this court's giving of a 7,200 auto allowance that then got transferred over, we should probably try to correct that. And this would be a time that we should correct that.
Well, let me hear a motion. I have a motion and a second to transfer the auto allowance to make it part of the salary. Let's vote on that
For the county
first.
clerk and district clerk.
For them two only.
Which would not change the numbers.
Total compensation.
Right.
Okay.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, carries. Okay, on the compensation, you're asking to increase, to give them a, what, 10% increase?
Well, something that's going to put them closer to the tax assessor.
And why would we want to do that?
Fairness?
But you just told that the tax assessor has twice the number of offices that those 2 offices have. Why would we want to do that?
Fairness.
No, but how is it fair? I mean, if one has half the offices.
Well, I believe they all have countywide duties, and the only reason he has more offices is because we keep adding more departments or some of these cities. I mean, are we taking money from these cities to add to his pay as well? I mean, we just
No.
approved what increase?
No,
And
but
that adds additional employees an additional budget, yet we're not charging those taxing entities. We're giving a service to them.
No, you are charging him.
For his salary?
No,
Not
no,
for
no.
his salary.
That's what I'm saying. For his salary, we're not charging.
No,
Well,
of
I
course.
imagine it's probably factored, or should be factored into the total cost. of the
Right, he's supposed to
operation.
provide a budget where it's a wash to that. So that's the way he does it. I'm sure there's indirect costs that are in there that he associate. I think you do have some indirect costs in there, and you can easily factor in his salary indirect costs. Well, if you want to do that, I don't support that. I mean, you know, then every elected official says, hey, I deserve more, and that's just, you know, they can grieve if they want to grieve,
I
but
don't think anyone is getting paid what they're worth.
you think they're getting paid more than they're
I
worth?
think they're
or what?
getting paid less from,
Okay.
from the, you know, the constables all the way up, you know, through the hierarchy of elected officials. And we knew what we were getting paid when we came into office.
That's absolutely right.
We ran and decided to run if we wanted to run and make whatever it is that we're being compensated. If there's a problem with what I make that I need to address, we have the grievance process. And the grievance process has worked in the past. You know, I mean, it's been there. It's, you know, we do it every year.
Okay, so Commissioner, you want to make a motion to raise them to, give me a dollar number.
I would say we at least raise him to 80.
Okay, I have a motion to
That'd be
raise
about a
the
$3,000
county clerk
increase.
and the district clerk to 80,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay.
Nay.
I'll vote aye.
Okay.
And I'm just doing it because if we're doing it for one, we ought to do it for all.
And I agree.
I mean,
I
I just
agree
don't
too.
think that we should selectively be taking people, you know. Is this giving them a raise or is this publishing a raise that we're voting for?
No, this is publishing,
Publishing.
well,
Haven't done it yet.
they're getting a raise.
This is publishing the maximum compensation that you will set at a later date.
So
You can always set it less than this. This is the maximum that you can do, that you will consider.
Okay.
You can always set it less. You're not setting
Well-
it.
And the grievance process comes after we set it or
If-
before?
If they file if an elected official files a grievance after you set
we
it.
said it.
Because, well, the elected official has 5 days in order to submit a grievance to the county judge, and then after that, the grievance hearing is set.
Okay.
I mean, we have a lot of underpaid folks, man. A lot of JPs out there, a lot of other individuals that, you know.
Well, and the only reason I do it is because of the car allowance disparity, and basically that extra 2,000 is what I added in there to get them to 80. Because the tax assessor had a $7,200 car allowance, they have a $5,400, so that extra 2,000 is what I'm adding to what they're getting right now to get us to, basically what this court previously did, I'm just catching up. I'm not giving or asking to give any more. As far as the grievance comes that Mr. Isaguirre got, if they want to grieve, they can do that. But basically, the extra 2,000 is what I added to what they're getting paid now to get them to 80.
Yeah, it was actually an $1,800 difference. You added a little bit, so that's fine.
Okay. Well,
I'm being exact with numbers, but you're.
I'll amend my motion if
No,
you want, just to make
We
it
already-
whatever.
We already voted on it, Commissioner. We supported it.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
And I just want to add, I included, as part of the budget backup, on the last 3 pages, there was the increases that were requested by all the departments. And within there was several elected officials that had requested increases. Those were included as part of that backup.
Yeah, but they have to
just
go through
know
the
that it's
grievance. They
there.
have to go through the grievance
And-
process, correct?
Not yet.
No, they can
It depends
be added
on what
now.
you do.
No, we're not gonna have that.
And I would also make a motion at this point to reduce my pay from $46,173 to $42,173. So the $4,000 that we just gave for the clerk's increase, take it out of my pay.
Well, it's not really accurate because most of your pay comes out of road and bridge, so how are we going to do that?
Transfer
Well,
it.
Just transfer it
doesn't-
out?
No, you can't transfer from road and bridge to general fund.
Right.
You can go the other way.
Right, so
But,
now-
but in total, I mean, you can always shift that percentage of the tax rate, whatever minuscule amount that
Okay.
is.
Make
Shift
work.
it wherever you need so there's no general fund upset.
Okay, well, actually, part of your salary, I can reduce that section of it is paid out of the general fund. It's split between the two.
Okay.
Okay, so now to equalize commissioner salaries, and do you all want to do that as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't
No,
afford-
that's just me. So
Exactly,
that-
but,
So
you know, at
that
some
the
point-
action that I just took doesn't impact our general fund.
No, but I'm saying in future years, there's going to be a deficit, so another commissioner's going to come, hey, I think you need to equalize salaries because somebody way back then dropped it by $4,000. I'm just saying that this is how it all starts, and maybe 3 or 4 years from now, people are going to have selective memories and not remember how it all happened.
Or not be here.
Yeah, or not be here. This is how it happened. So, this is how the disparity begins.
And at that time, the budget might be stronger and better, so it might be easier.
Commissioner, we support what you did because I believe it's the right thing to do. I'm the one that brought.
So you're going to do it?
I opened the can of worms, but I think it's a move that is ill-advised for future commissioners. This is not a break the budget deal. We appreciate what we also supported what you did, but nobody's asking you to fall on your sword.
Well-
Again, you already fell by making the motion.
I understand that, but as long as I'm here, I'm willing to take that cut.
Well, you made the
made a
motion. Is
motion,
there
you
a
made a
second?
Second, anyone?
I'll second it. I'll second it. I've got no problem with that. I just think it sets it's very noteworthy and very commendable, but it also creates some problems for the future. But okay, I'll second it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey.
Hey.
It carries. So you got a raise without even voting for it. Now, I'll tell you what. Yeah, but I'll tell you what you can do is donate that amount of money to United Way or maybe to Friendship of Women or some of the things that we already do.
Friendship with the JP.
Hey, I'll donate as much as you donate, Judge.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I didn't, it failed.
I've done that. Okay? All right, what else?
The rest of the elected officials, what do you want to do?
Well, I don't know. What do y'all want to do?
What do you anticipate in the increase to county employees? That's what we have to consider on the maximum?
I mean, look.
Yeah, this is a max that you will consider setting.
Yeah, and I think we go back and we give the elected, so there's no disparity. You add another $1,000 to every elected official with the exception of Commissioner's Court as the maximum. Then if we somehow find the money to give employees a raise, the elected official falls in that category.
For publishing.
For publishing purposes. So everybody $1,000. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Okay? Got it?
Need a motion?
Yeah, so moved. I'll make a motion that we do that. Second by Commissioner Gatsa. Discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries.
Okay, we're also, on this notice, on the very bottom, we're setting the public hearing, the date you're going to set the salaries. I have it here for Thursday, August the 16th, during the regular meeting. Last year, that posed a problem, or there was a conflict because there was a conference or something that was going on for the commissioners or judges.
I don't know of
something like
anything
that.
this.
Oh,
Is that
that's the
fine?
TAC.
I'm not sure if it's that week or
Is
not.
that the week the same time attack in Austin?
There's a TAC conference in Austin, pre-legislative.
Okay, this is the 16th, so.
So we're good.
Oh, all right.
Okay. And I just want to, Dilvia, did you have a chance to look at, because it's a little bit different because of the change in the precincts? That's fine? Okay,
Okay, what else we need?
that's it?
You're done with that? So we did,
Both.
Martha?
In the packet that was submitted, there was, on the new position request, I'd like to put in a request to the court. I am requesting the court for 4 additional auditors for my office.
No, that's not in the budget.
That's not in the budget, no.
Okay, so we're talking-
These are new position requests that I am requesting from my office. The county budget, the county operations, the grant funding has grown considerably in comparison from in 2001, the county revenues were 95,000. In 2011, we're at 150,000. Grant funding in 2001 was at 11 million. In 2011, last year, we were at 31,000. And the issues
31 million.
31 million, sorry. The issues that this brings to light is that there is a considerable additional amount of oversight, financial responsibility that has to be taken on by our office. And we have additional duties. Our statutory obligation continues. We have a number, all of these satellite offices.
So the number is what? Another 200 something?
For 4 additional auditors, it would be $274,120. The plan to, if the court approves it, would be to fund one from the bridges system, fund one for the park system, which the park system definitely needs, fund one from road and bridge, and have the impact be minimized to general fund by only incurring one.
Okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit. The general fund, that's a no-brainer. We know that deficit gets larger. When we go to the bridge system and you do one, does that reduce the amount of transfer that will come over from the roads, from the bridge system to the general fund? Simple yes or no?
It would reduce it, yes.
Exactly. So that's a general fund impact already right there. So we're not, even though you may be spreading it, and I'm not saying you, I know that you need them, but I'm looking at the numbers. It does have a general fund impact. You're reducing the revenue stream for that. Okay, so
Correct.
so right off the bat, that's $100,000 for those two, or a little bit more, right? So it's 100,000.
Yeah, about 100,000.
About 100,000 adding to the red number that we're already
Correct.
looking at, 358. From the park system, that's probably the only one that can absorb it. Literally. From the park system, and there wouldn't be any impact on that. So, and then what was the other one? The bridge?
Road and bridge.
And the road and bridge, then assuming you're going to balance a budget by zeroing this out, you're adding another $50,000 to be funded by road and bridge.
Correct.
Correct?
That is
and
correct.
so what that's going to do also in essence is the only one that can sustain itself by alone is the park system. The other three, no matter how you do it, you can play the shell, the shell game can be played. It's the general fund impact. I mean,
Correct.
You made it sound real pretty, but at the end of the day, that's not what's happening.
Well, the oversight that would be enhanced at the bridge the cost would be borne by the participating entities as well, because it's allocated out.
Yeah, but
At
the
the end of the
transfer
day,
that
it does affect general
yeah,
fund,
I mean
yes.
a little bit. I mean, okay, we'll throw it in there. I mean, throw it into the budget, and we'll just see what happens as we go.
So are we going to throw into the budget the rest of the new position requests? Because she has 4, the environmental health is requesting 2, information systems assistant, for elections 1, court assistant 1, deputy clerk 1, and court records coordinator 1.
And that's a valid question, because once you start going down this path, and all of a sudden you become arbitrary in selecting who gets positions and who doesn't, much like the raises we just did. We made an arbitrary decision without factoring in all elected officials. Okay, and we're going to go down this path now with selecting, even though there's no doubt that you need resources. So can every person or every department that's requesting positions, they can justify it. So we're either going to do them all or do piecemeal, but then we're still, again, and this happens every year. This deficit gets bigger and bigger and bigger. At the end of the day, we can't give raises because we're already in the hole. That's what we're facing now, unless the court is willing to raise taxes. And Commissioner, you've been consistent in not wanting to raise taxes. But
Judge, I just asked a question.
No, I know, but you know what? But you can't. You got. I mean, I think there's a need for the public to know that we're not just arbitrarily picking out that we're going to give her 4. Your question was very valid. It's a good question, because every department's going to come back and say, why did they get it and we didn't? And we have to stand ready to be able to answer those questions.
For instance, Judge Gonzalez in Court 1, he doesn't have a clerk. The other 2 courts, Court 3. Court 1 and 2 have a clerk. Court 3 doesn't have a clerk. And he's asking
that
for,
happened. I
don't know how that happened.
Yeah, that was a rhetorical question, but I don't, you know,
They used to, there was one, and then it was split between two departments, and then when they changed the, was it?
The administrator,
judge,
yeah.
or what have you, then the positions was consolidated into one, and so it was being shared, and then it, I guess it's under one person now.
But why did one court have a full clerk and then the other two were sharing one? If they all have the same number of cases?
That's just the way it was set up years ago. I'm not really sure why.
Did it happen when Court 3 was added? Instead of adding a new position at that time, they just said 1 and 3 will share one?
I don't know. It was before my time.
If you go down,
but
if you go even to the JP level, if you look, and I've talked to a couple of judges, some of the JPs have dockets, you know, this big, and some have dockets like this because of the way DPS or whoever the citations, the way the tickets are issued. And there was talk about creating a coordinator for the JP courts, especially like in Brownsville, where they actually move, you know, case A, B, it goes back and forth, where the cases get spread out evenly among the JPs. We have the same issue in Harlingen. If you look at the numbers, there's a big discrepancy between Judge Cano's court and Judge Sally's. And I don't care if you can tell me, well, that's where the troopers send them. It's not fair to the system, to our system, that, because I think you have an imbalance eventually as far as collections are concerned, because one's overburdened and one's not getting enough business. So we need to figure out a way to kind of balance that out. That's another issue down the road. And it's a fair question. You know, does a coordinator actually save you money going forward? Do you have to bring more money in? Or do you reallocate? You know, so we can talk about this probably in every department.
Well, I think, though, in this particular case, the county clerk basically balances the filings in all the courts.
The JPs don't, though.
Right. No, but, I mean, in this particular case, how was it that you have 3 courts and there was only 2 clerks? You know, and I'm guessing, I don't know, but whenever County Court 3 was created, instead of funding that full position, County Court 1 said, we'll share our clerk with you till they fund you a new position, and that just never happened.
Yeah, possibly.
Sometimes there's games played with individuals also, you know, like somebody got stipends to do more, and, you know, there's been issues of that sort that have come up, I know. In other words, somebody was getting a stipend to help do something.
To do clerk work? And are they still getting that stipend?
I have no idea.
Do those clerks get paid the same, the other 2 in the other court?
Yes, for the same job descriptions, they're within the courts, they get paid the same.
Are there any employees that get an extra stipend?
The only one that was doing that within the county courts was the interpreter.
The interpreter. But she's gone, so whoever replaced her position gets what the other clerks get paid.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the coordinator or the administrator. The salary was always listed the same for that job description, but then there was another on the salary schedule line for, you know, for the interpreter portion.
And that's what...
It was always listed separately because of the fact that if that person leaves.
And that got shifted over to the interpreter.
Yes, that was brought to the court this year or last year, asking for that other interpreter to get that because they were going to be handling all the courts.
So, I mean, we really don't have an answer as to why that court doesn't have a clerk.
No, I don't. I know why they don't have one now. As to why they were split between the two initially, I'm not sure.
But we don't know why they weren't given one initially.
I don't know.
No telling. Also, you know, in anticipation of the new office that it's opening in Los Fresnos, which hopefully will be sometime first part of next year, is Tony adding personnel to accommodate the needs of that office?
Well, he hasn't requested new staff. I don't know if he plans on adding staff to that office.
Because I know that it'll, you know, should come live maybe sometime in the spring of next year. And there's going to be at least one position needed there, I would imagine, more than we have now.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I mean,
well, he's going to need it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, but
You know, in all fairness to everyone, we need to accommodate what we need to accommodate.
I mean, but in that, I'm not sure I understand that. I mean, the office is already in operation now.
There's no
It's just-
drive-up window in that office today.
Oh, okay, for the
And there's
drive-up
gonna be a
portion.
drive-up window
Yeah.
in the offices that are gonna be
Yeah.
opening up, you know. That takes personnel to take
Correct.
care of, unfortunately or fortunately, you know, depending on whether you're driving up or not.
Yeah, but I would imagine the collections within that office are going to stay the same. As, you know, it's going to be the same people that are going there before, going there now even. But,
So the person in the drive-through just has to wait while they take
instead
care
of
of
getting
it.
down, they'll just go through the, but I imagine he's going to submit a request for an additional staff person, but anyway. Okay, so, we have, unless there's something that y'all want to take specific action on right now in reference to the budget, we have nothing else at this point.
Well, I think you've done enough.
Thank you.
You've cost us enough for one day.
As I mentioned, we'll file the recommended one next week, and next week we'll send you the complete book with all the departments, line items, everything, for y'all to have. This one, we hadn't done that because it's changing, so it's going.
So what can we do about adding a clerk? Are you going to put that in there so that each court has a clerk?
Y'all would have to take action on that, whether to add it or not.
Well, I'd make a motion that we add a clerk. I mean, if they don't have one, and he needs one.
But are we at that point right now?
This item, that's why I have it listed, discussion and possible action. The sooner you make decisions on certain things, you know, we know where we're at farther along. We have things that are like pending, then at the very end, we're still deciding, okay, are we going to add the 200 to the health insurance, or are we not going to do that? It's like, okay, are we going to shift the tax, or we're not going to shift that? It just makes it more difficult at the very end, you know, getting the accurate numbers and everything.
Because that clerk used to work for both courts, right?
There was one position, yeah, and it was split between the two.
And now she's not. Now she's only court 1.
Yeah, that, I don't know.
So
But okay.
all the work that she was doing in court 3 now gets thrown on the other employees. And it's
so-
quite a bit. I mean, there's been some, I guess, effect out of her not working there anymore. It causes the other ones to have to work late, and we don't compensate them.
Okay, so.
Well,
I
what
think there was a
happens with the
motion.
district clerk request?
They're all, yeah, they're all up for
I mean, they're all
consideration, up for the court.
valid.
Whatever y'all want.
Well, I think the only difference here is that each district court has a clerk. Here, there's no clerk at all. I think that's the problem.
There is someone here from the district clerk's office. I don't know if they want to expand on the request. I'm not sure.
Eric?
Eric? Yeah. On your request for the new position, do you want to address the court in reference to that, or justification?
Eric, please tell us you really don't need it. It was a typo.
Attorney General clerk, since we are billing the court costs in the Attorney General cases, we're going back, and with Odyssey, it's much easier to track them. We are going back about 10 years and making sure that every case is actually, that is billed correctly, that the fees are in there, and then we're going back and researching the information on the respondents, getting the address, phone numbers.
Who's doing it now?
Right now, we have employees who are also have other duties, which is either the court clerks, the people who do the billing upstairs for tax suits. So we're kind of spread out between 5 or 6 people. But we need somebody to actually handle it 8 to 5 so that we can have a lot of information and bill.
So you need the clerk, obviously.
We need the
All right, thank you, Eric.
But is there new income being derived to fund that clerk?
There, I think we spoke to Martha about this. It's fees that we weren't able to track before and we weren't able to collect. Since we were getting reimbursed 33% from the state, the other 64 was still there. So they are fees that were in the system, but that we weren't collecting because we had no mechanism.
And when did you start collecting them?
About a year ago.
And how much in that year have you collected?
I think maybe about 10, 15,000 extra a month. Now that's just an estimate. It might be a little bit more because some of these funds have to actually go back to the state since we were reimbursed to this. But since we don't have one particular person working on it, and we have it separated between different people, depending on their time constraints, they're not doing the collection or billing a full day. So I would say about $10,000, $15,000 extra a month. Could it be more? Yes, it could, but I can't give you an amount right now, a specific amount.
So that's new revenue that we haven't gotten in the past.
Yes.
And Martha, have you tracked that new revenue? You verified it? So, okay.
No. It's not in the budget.
It's not budgeted?
It's not reflected in the budget.
Okay. So, and you can't give us a number right now on what you anticipate?
We can get you the figures by the next meeting or before then.
Do we have to take action today, Javier?
No.
Why don't you give us those numbers for the next meeting, and then if there's any other allocation for that new money that you're bringing in, let us know what allocation in your budget that is, so that we can kind of look at it. Because, I mean, if it's new money being generated and the position is going to provide, then, you know, it's a big difference and easier for us to make that move.
Okay. Are we in December? Is this Christmas already?
We can always cross our fingers. Commissioners, I wasn't aware of what the whole procedure was, so I was kind of asking Javier some questions. Going back to the what we asked for in our budget for this year, I had asked for additional clerk from my office in Rio Hondo, and also for an increase in my gas allowance because having to go between two offices now. And I know Judge Sanchez vacating, was going to leave his allowance. So I had asked for, I think, 2,500 additional to mine, being that, you know, I do travel a lot after hours, and that was one of the requests. The other request was for the extra personnel for my office. I know what we're concerned with is trying to collect on stuff that's from the past. This last 2 years that I've been in office, I mean, our revenues have gone way up. I feel with the additional staff for my office in Rio Hondo, that's going to free up at least one of my clerks to work on what's backlogged as far as tickets from 2002 to 2010. You know, and I wasn't aware this was the time we had to ask, so I'm glad I asked, you know, so.
Good thing you came today.
That wasn't included here, have you?
It's on the last page of the request.
Right here.
Where?
GP4.
Yeah, and I know last year's budget, we came real close to getting another clerk approved, and it was given to
Court assistant?
the treasurer's office.
This one? This one. Oh, okay. Yeah, but that's just the position.
Oh, you're asking about the auto allowance?
Yeah, it was over here on this other part. See, that's history.
Yeah, it was asking to be increased to 75.
Like 2,100, I
From
believe. is what it
54
was.
to 75. Yeah. Also. Well, that's already done, because we already agreed on the salary, right?
Compensation, yeah.
Right. The compensation package included
Correct.
auto allowance.
The thing is, the auto allowance is non-renewable.
Right.
Yes, and I wasn't aware of that was what we're doing now, so I didn't. So right now I asked Javier, and he says, yeah, right. He goes, you might want to ask him so they can
That was
reopen
done
it.
already. That was done.
So I guess my request is if you can reopen it consider mine also. Like, I wasn't familiar with what today was actually, consistent of.
Is it already done? Wasn't there a few years ago when Judge Wise came to grieve?
Correct, and he had to change his he had to initially submitted a grievance for auto allowance, but since that's not grievable, he changed it to
a
salary.
salary.
And so that's why that precinct salary is higher than the other JPs, is because he grieved 1 year.
So he grieved his salary for an increase?
Right.
Okay.
And it was approved by the grievance committee.
Yeah, because he gets paid more than all the other JPs, like by about $1,000.
I just checked. Okay, next.
Roger. Morning, Judge, Commissioners. I wanted to address the information systems assistance that I have that's been paid out of Fund 180. Every year I've been asking, since it came in, I've been asking for it to be transferred to the general fund where it should be. When that position was first, or when that person was first hired, it was probably a 6-month until we would get to mid-year budget amendments and have it transferred, and it was delayed until the following year, and it's been remaining on the 180 fund, which it should not be getting paid from.
But I mean, Roger, why should it not be paid? You said it should not be being paid for, or it's not advisable?
Fund 180
or-
is a contract fund that should be used for enhancement of the election office, not for payment of employees. When our auditor came in to work for us, she also suggested, it says, you need to change that. Well, it's been on my budget requests ever since, and it's never happened.
How much is it?
Because we don't have the funds.
Well, what makes you think we have them now?
Well, but since we're
Yeah, since
talking about
everyone's in
all
line
this,
for,
I'm
for.
coming-
All you gotta do is transfer money from 180 to.
That's not.
No, you can't do that.
Can't do that.
Well, put it on, I guess. I mean,
Put 'em on 180?
might as well. I mean, the Pandora's box has been opened, might as well. Let's just see what happens. I mean, see, these are the types of things that, there's probably people that have requested positions that are not here, and those that are astute enough to show up at these meetings every once in a while have the opportunity to come in and make their request personally, and it's kind of hard, you get explain it away. But, every request in here, I have to believe that it is a legitimate request. But we're cherry picking as to who gets them yes and no, and we find ways to justify it. I just don't think, you talk about fairness, I don't think that's fair. And the Commissioner, either you do all or none, and we can't afford it. I mean, I don't know why this year's any different, because the red number wasn't as red this year. Now all of a sudden, we're already up to over $500,000 deficit.
It's pink.
Yeah, it's not even pink. Without your number in there.
Like your shirt, Judge.
Yeah, that's why I wore it. I figure it's going to be a pink day today. But your request is a legitimate request. Aurora's clerk is a legitimate request. David Gonzalez is a legitimate request. Every request is legitimate. But the thing is, I don't know where we're going to get this money without a tax increase, and I think now I'm not going to vote to raise taxes with this, because we don't have to. We're not being, fiscally right here. We're saying, well, let's go ahead and do it because they need it. Everybody needs those people. So.
I understand, Judge. My request has been in there.
No, I know. I remember it, but look, if that's something, when you say that we should not be doing it, it's actually violating something, then we need to move it out of there. Once
I was going to ask,
we know.
that was my question. Is this a special fund, this 180 fund?
The 180 fund was set up for elections, for different elections that we have. We also place our monies that we get for the leases of the equipment and so forth, that we have to justify to the state at the end of the year through the audits that money is being used for something to has the office, either whether it's for utilities and for keeping of the warehouse and maintaining the machines and so forth.
Sure.
But it has to be submitted that way to the state every year.
Is that employee that's getting paid out of those funds, do they get FICA and their retirement and all that stuff out of those funds?
Yes, sir.
So they get the full-blown
Right.
package paid out of the 180 funds? Is that legal, Martha? I mean, can that be done that way, or should it be moved over?
I know that Roger has continually requested that this particular slot be transferred to general fund. It has been substantiated by the position that it is. It's an information systems assistant. So all of these elections that he holds for all of these other entities need information, computer technology assistance. So that is how we have been able to substantiate
Justify
it.
it.
Correct.
It's a good
But
answer.
I agree, it should be.
Good answer, Martha.
I agree, it should be transferred.
So from what we're getting paid from the other entities, it's kind of like what we're doing with Mr. Isaguirre and the tax office.
That is correct.
What we're getting paid by them to administer, we're adding to our
Yes.
employee pool.
I think, after, we can go back and we're going to be here all day if we want to go over every department. I think that we need to sit down seriously and concentrate. Like, do we want to give that $1,000 raise to everybody?
Or do we want to?
Or do we want to go and cherry pick, like the judge said? I think the raise probably right now to everybody is probably the most uplifting things. I mean, it's not a lot of money. To some people, it's a lot of money. To some, it's very little, but it's the most uplifting thing we can do for our employees. Because obviously, we can't afford to do all of them. Or we raise our tax rate like Hidalgo to be at 59 cents versus 39. So we can't do it all. That's just my
No, I agree, and
2 cents.
we've already started cherry picking here already, and where do you stop it? Okay, well, we're going to have another meeting with this, but I don't,
And since we're discussing budgetary issues at this time, I know that I sent out an email yesterday relative to our jail population. I'm confident everybody read it.
I got it.
No, I
And,
didn't get it because our system is out.
is that the 1444?
Yes, the 1444. Our population as of today is at 1468.
Martha, the ankle bracelet thing, the judges, we need to get that as quickly as possible, Pete, and get these people out of jail. We've sat on this issue about the ankle bracelet now for about 4 or 5 months. We brought it, but we finally approved it last meeting.
Right.
We need to expedite that as quickly as possible to get people out if we can, because we shouldn't have to go house people outside if we have that in place.
Did I read that email correctly? We have 138 prisoners outside? No?
No, that was an 11.
No, that was back then.
Oh, okay.
Where's Kevin?
Yeah, no.
That will also
I thought we were
alleviate our budget.
having 20
Indigent
habeas
budget,
a
we get
week.
the ankle bracelets on our prisoners as quickly as possible and get them out. That will also relieve the indigent budget as far as the number of people needing attorneys to get out of jail. So let's see what we can do to push that along, David.
All right, Javier?
Okay, so are there any items that you care to take action on today or not?
Summarize right now where you think we are.
Well, at this point, since you haven't taken any action, I'm not including any of the positions that are being requested.
No,
until y'all-
but you have to include what we talked about with the elected officials,
Correct.
okay? Now, that's the only increases that we've done right now. That's the only thing that's going to impact this right now, correct?
Well, since you actually haven't voted on the elected officials, basically you're going to advertise the maximum compensation.
You're not going to add
I'm
it?
not
Well, I
gonna
think you need to
include
add
it,
it somewhere because that's going to be
I'll
a,
have it what that cost is.
okay, unless one member that voted for it is going to see the light and change it at the end. I mean, because what you said earlier, it's only $1,000 here, but you know what? If it's only $1,000, then it's no big deal, then why give it to them? Okay? So for now, then what is it that you want to do?
No, I'm just asking if any of these requests that have been made, if you want to take any action on them or not. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, if not, then the
It's not a
presentation's
drop
done.
dead thing today.
No,
Not
it's not.
today.
No,
I
I'm
don't
just
wanna
asking.
take-
Neither do I.
I don't think I want to take action, I mean, I want to see what we can do to give our employees a raise.
Okay.
Did we vote on the issue of the car allowance yet for the constables?
He's gonna add it.
The JPs, or we're not gonna?
Not the JPs.
No,
Yeah, y'all didn't.
Not the
do that.
JPs, just the clerks.
We just set the maximum compensation. That's all we did today.
Right, but in that, the auto allowance is separate.
So
Yeah, but
Right.
we included the change for.
For them, but not for the
Rivera and
JPs.
Yes.
Right.
But
So-
how about for the JPs?
We did not.
Okay.
Y'all did not.
Should we? I mean, you can't change it once we do this, correct?
Well, if we do it, I think one of the concerns that, we talked about was, what happens if they decide they don't want to respond to calls? We don't even have a.
Well, we already have that
Well,
already.
some of them don't.
We do that now. We do that
Exactly.
now.
I think that the overall compensation includes the car allowance, so it may not make, right, when you post it, includes salary,
It makes
car
a
allowance, cell
difference
phone.
Because the auto allowance is not grievable.
Yes,
The
that's
salary is.
Is the cell phone
No.
grievable?
No. Their allowances, correct me if I'm wrong, there's an AG's opinion in reference to this, because, say, the auto allowance is kind of an arbitrary number. It's not based on anything.
That's true.
If it was actually based on, okay, I'm driving 500, not the individual, but what we set it at, the 5,400 miles, that it's based on so many miles a year, and we're paying so much miles, so this is what it is, then okay, it's grievable. But because it's just $5,400 because, well, he's getting it, so he's getting it, so I need to get it, and so it's arbitrary, then it's not a grievable compensation through that process.
Would it be better to pay mileage then?
That's.
Well, I've suggested that for years, that we get off all the car allowances and let everybody turn in a mileage reimbursement, just like they do everywhere else, but nobody wanted to do it because it was too much work. And so consequently, you have a lot of JPs, well, I wouldn't say a lot, you have several JPs that do not respond to calls, yet they get the same car allowance that other JPs that do respond to outside calls. That's not fair. So I think that you eliminate the car allowances and you let them submit mileage reimbursement. You throw that car allowance number, into a pool again, and you're going to find that you're not going to be spending $5,400 on a car allowance on the JP.
We did that this year with regular employees.
Right.
And it's kind of gone both ways with individuals. We have some, that are submitting the ones that are requesting reimbursement are actually getting more than what their allowance was, and then you have some that are, it's minimal amount.
That's what I'm saying, it's fair, because if you use it, you get it paid. If you don't use it, then you don't get paid anything.
A $5,400 a year car allowance is basically 1,000 miles a month per individual that gets it at the county reimbursable rate. Okay? That's what it comes down to. And it's, a $5,400 car allowance is a lot less than providing a vehicle with expenses to an individual, right, Javier?
That's true.
So there's two different ways to look
Give and take.
Well, I think, Commissioner,
I have a
Commissioner, because you brought it up, it's a good point. Let them do that.
I have a question on so the phone is compensation.
No.
It's kind of the same. It was set at $80 a month. It's an allowance. It's part of the total compensation that they receive. But the only portion
it's just not allowed to be grieved. It's not part of the total. It's not compensation under the definition that would be allowed to be grieved by an elected official.
But it is compensation.
But it's part of the total compensation, yes.
That we have to advertise.
Okay, and once we advertise it, it can't be higher than that?
No.
It can be lower?
It can be lower.
And then once we approve it, it has to get paid?
Yes.
So why don't we pay the JPs back on their phone allowances?
I believe they were reimbursed back to October.
But only for the fiscal year?
Correct.
And past budgets?
No, the court did not approve that.
So we wouldn't be required to pay this?
I'm not sure what Bruce, because I know that Bruce looked into this, and I'm not real sure what he came up with.
Well, and the only reason I ask is because you're saying that it's not grievable, yet it is compensation.
Mm-hmm. Part of the total that's advertised.
Considered part of the package.
Yeah.
Okay.
kind of similar to, we have to advertise the juvenile board supplement that the judge gets, and it's not agreeable because that's set by statute, but it has to be advertised as part of his total compensation.
So let me ask then,
But he gets it regardless, right?
yes.
By statute, yeah.
So how about on the, let's go back to the car allowances. What do y'all want to do about that?
Do y'all want to go back to
For the, I mean,
reopen up that
just for
item?
the reason, because you have, again, you got some JPs that do an awful lot of traveling to do, go to deaths and stuff, and you have others that don't answer the phone. So even though they're on schedule, they don't answer. So
Do we
that's not fair.
Do we keep track of how many they do?
I
Martha,
don't-
do
I
you
don't see any.
keep those numbers?
Here's another slide for that.
We do have them available, but we do not track them. I mean, we don't know who responds to, or
Or
who
who
gets
doesn't-
called
how
that
can
does
you
not
know who doesn't
respond.
answer their phone?
We don't keep track of.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you ask one of the JPs, they'll be able to tell you who's not answering the phone. All right, so what do you want to do? Just leave it alone, or do you want to really just go back and eliminate it and just have everybody, just like all county employees do, turn in mileage reimbursement?
Judge Flores, what do you recommend? Leave it alone or go to mileage? Leave it alone? Okay. Well, based on that, I say we leave it alone.
All right.
We'll leave it alone.
So leave it alone.
because
But you're not including it for purposes of the, you're not going to include it.
Yeah, it's
You're
just
not
going to
moving,
stay.
it's still going to stay as a car allowance, correct?
Right.
Okay.
All right.
We're leaving it as car allowance, Commissioner, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, all right. Do I hear a motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner
Second.
Hernandez, second by
Move to
Commissioner Garza.
adjourn.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item I,
Did you make a motion?
we're going to talk
H?
about, I'm sorry?
You need to make a motion for H, because you just, wasn't that for the elected officials?
Motion to acknowledge item H also.
Yeah, I did that one.
Yeah, we did.
we did it together.
Yeah. Okay, we talk about it after executive session. Item J, consideration approval of, they're going to make a presentation. You want to do this after, Commissioner?
Yes, well,
Okay.
let's have him make the presentation, then we'll take
No,
this
because
item
we're
out.
running out of time. We have legal waiting for us, so I'm trying to get, we can come back and do that one.
That's what I'm saying. After the presentation, we'll do that one.
Okay, good thinking. Item K, consideration authorization to close the satellite office at the Harlingen Annex. That's Mr. Rivera's deal. Another office closes. He just raised his salary.
Just raise the salary, he don't have to supervise another office.
Judge, we tried on a trial basis by opening an office in Harlingen. District Attorney had space, and we got it ready to do the collections, but we got very little cooperation from the JP, and to the point that since opening, they only sent one case over to us.
Okay, Joe, I just have one question. Did, and I don't remember this, but did you have to hire additional people to do this, or you did it within? Okay,
We
so,
did it from within. We
All right.
we used the person that was in San Benito
okay,
to go back and forth. We
Got
just real close to him, so.
We appreciate you, Senator.
all right, do I hear a motion to approve the closing?
So moved.
By Commissioner Gatsa, second.
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Item L, consider,
May I? I'm sorry.
shut.
He wants space.
Our county clerk is closing that office over there, and I wanted to see if I could use that office, because we use it at every election. And what I'd like to use it for is to keep voter applications, keep documents over there. It's a small office, and it would serve us it would do us a great service if we could use it. I could send somebody over there to do some training or deputizing people.
Well, let me ask, are there any other plans for that office? I have no problem with that, but place it on the next agenda so we can
Okay.
approve that.
Yeah,
Okay?
we don't need to be renting more space, Roger.
Right. Okay, don't get, Roger, don't leave. Next item is yours. Item L, consideration and action requesting approval of the early voting and election day polling location scheduled for November 6th, 2012. Has the court had the opportunity to look at these?
I didn't get backup.
I'm sorry?
We haven't gotten the backup.
Work with both parties on it.
Y no cooperan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
They got 1,000 people in there. Oh, I'm gonna see.
Changes, some of it due to redistricting, and others due to other reasons where it would help us a great deal if we could make these changes. One of the changes, if we may address the early voting locations first, which I think are the first ones there on top of the package. One of the things that I'm increasing is the hours of early voting. This past election, we were opening at 10 o'clock and closing at 7 o'clock. And we had some people that were coming a little earlier than that.
Numerous complaints.
I wanted to see if we could move it to 9 in the morning.
In your
instead of
budget, do
10.
you have any referees?
Referee?
Yeah, no? Okay.
No. The other thing that, the other location that I changed, if you would go to about the fifth one down, that's Gutierrez Middle School. I'm proposing that we move our early voting from the Harlingen Annex Building to Gutierrez Middle School. We've had a lot of issues there at the Annex Building.
You've cleared it with the school?
I'm sorry?
You've cleared it with the school?
The school has been very cooperative. The schools were closed. It was very hard for us to get a hold of them, but the Harlingen School District has been very cooperative with us on it. I don't think we will have a problem with that.
All right.
The other one is we had a request. We've been talking back and forth with Valley Baptist.
You know, that was a signed capital of Cameron County.
Capital.
You know, the Wilson Road Annex.
Uh-huh.
If we charge rent, we could raise revenue.
It was a signed capital of Cameron County in that area, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean.
Okay, and the other one is the addition of Valley Baptist Medical Center. I understand that prior to when I've been here in office, some of the locations were also used. These people have been in contact with me, and they are willing to provide the space, set it up as however we want it, set out there. They've got space in the lobbies, and they have different shifts, and they claim to have over 2,000 employees in those buildings, besides all the traffic that they have in there. So, I mean, I'm willing to try it. I put it on here for your consideration also.
Any other changes?
In that, Judge, no.
In the early voting.
No, the early voting, no. We've got, of course, we've got 10 locations that are the main locations, and then we've got the other locations with their branch locations. We increased the numbers there for the general election.
Okay. Anything else?
On the election day locations, we have, I'm keeping Benny Ochoa County Annex Building for 1 and 83. We used to use Derry and used to use Garriga Elementary, and we had issues with people getting to those locations, finding them even. And so I think this annex building has served very well in that area, and I request that you...
With a sea of signs as well?
I'm sorry?
Signs, there's a bunch of signs.
There were a lot of signs, but we didn't have the issues that we had in Harlingen.
Not as bad.
It's because no one can park there, I think. The problem in Harlingen is, you know, people, when I drove in one day to go visit one of the county offices, the guy was like standing right in the middle of the road with a sign.
That happened to me several times when visiting that office. I mean, I had to actually stop before going in because...
I think that the Benny Ochoa building has worked well
Yes, sir.
in this
It
cycle,
has.
you know. I mean, we've had no
Yes,
complaint.
it has.
I mean,
let's
aside
keep
from
it.
a couple of calls saying, well, why did you change? You know, nothing.
Yeah, but it's been working well. We have, of course, we have some other precincts, new precincts, but one I would like to bring out is a precinct in precinct 41. We have 103 and 104 along with it. That is a precinct in the Harlingen area, and we normally use Bowie Elementary in that. I'm suggesting we move to Jefferson Elementary for that location, and I've been receiving requests to do that, to change it to Jefferson Elementary to allow more people to be there. The problem we had at Bowie, is from the calls that I would get, would be parking.
Parking issues.
Yeah, parking issues in there. And so we've used Jefferson before. So I thought I'd put it in there unless the commission wishes for me to move it back to Bowie. That's no problem.
The only thing I'd say is
Yeah.
can we at least put up some signage out there? Because a lot of times on election day, people will show up thinking, I only have so much time. But if they see in advance, change of polling place, a week or two, maybe put it out at the school so people driving by see it.
Yes, well, we will be publishing this in the paper as soon after we get the order of election. And we are required to put some signs when changes come in afterwards, or changes that are done from a prior election to the next election. We have to put up some signs, and we normally do that. We laminate them and put them on with those straps, those plastic straps.
Cable ties.
Yeah, cable ties, yes. That's what we do. And we do it anytime we have a change in location. So that's done a day or 2 days before the election.
If there's any way to do it, maybe a little more in advance, Roger. Because people will drive by the school, and maybe they don't have kids there. But if you put them large enough and visible enough, at least they'll have an idea. Because some people that wait till election day to vote, get out of work, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock, and running to the poll.
I understand. We can go back and do that. We used to do that, but we found out that a lot of the signs were pulled off before election day. And so election day comes around, we don't have any signs anymore.
Or maybe ask the school if on their marquee they can put, this will not be a polling place.
I could try that.
Just to let the public know.
Okay. We have another change in that precinct 34 would normally vote at TSTC site, and TSTC is in a different Harlingen district. And in November, we're having Harlingen elections in November for the city of Harlingen. It would be very confusing if we would have a precinct that's in a different Harlingen district voting in a separate district. And so that may continue happening in November elections, since they all have to use our locations. And so I suggest that we move that to 44, which is Treasure Hills, which is the same district as 34. Otherwise, I would have to move it way further up, somewhere around Combs or the Dishman School, and that would be, I think, from when you look at the map, it's pretty far.
So that would be the closest.
I mean, the law requires no more than 25 miles from the residence to the voting precinct, but I mean,
We're
it's
good
still we're good there, but it still looks a little far.
How many voters do you get out of 34?
There's not a lot of
many, right?
voters. There's oh gee.
It's a slow precinct.
Yes,
or
it is.
Low voting precinct.
Yes, sir. It is.
Because I know Treasure Hills has its own parking problems.
Treasure Hills has a heavy turnout.
Yeah, and they got their own parking issues there too.
Yeah, I understand that.
Roger, I stepped out. Did you do anything about precinct 13, the Presbyterian Church? We didn't use it this time. Is it going to
We didn't
remain?
use it because they were having Bible school in the areas that we have voting, and there was no other room available.
Are you going to continue with that as a precinct?
We've got First Presbyterian Church still on our list.
Very
That was
limited parking
see,
also.
there was a lot of things that happened when the legislature changed the dates, or when the courts changed the dates. And it interrupted a lot of things. It interrupted our budget preparation here for our office. It interrupted preparing for this. Also, we just finished an election on the 31st, so there's a lot of things that happened, and it also affected a lot of the locations. A lot of our schools, we had a lot of problems getting with the schools. We did, and they were very nice at helping us out, but most of the schools were closed, and we had trouble finding some of the administrators. There's another change on 53. I'm asking that we use Stato Middle School instead of Palm Grove. Had calls from voters, and why do we still have to use Palm Grove? They would prefer that we use one of these other schools or move it and combine it with 77, which was Garza.
And I guess you're going to find that the people that have been voting at Palm Grove all this time, they're going to not like going to Bastado.
I think we're going to, one way or another, somebody's going to call about it. But we think Bastado Middle School may be a better location.
And you don't think you'll have any problems getting in there? As far as the school system is concerned?
No, as far as the school system, no. I don't believe so. I don't think so at all. The other location is Precinct 55. Precinct 55, normally we use a fire station, and there's always issues at the fire station in La Feria. And we tried using William B. Green School, and that wasn't available because of the change of dates of the elections. And we got a call about less than a week before it opened that we needed to move it. So Sam Houston since then has worked for us, and I'd like to keep that as a location at Sam Houston for Precinct 55.
So then with Harlingen, you've coordinated with what they're going to be utilizing as polling places for all that?
Okay. In the fire station on Precinct 79, fire station number 4, the only reason I highlighted it here for me so I could remember to bring this up. There's been issues or requests that we try and position ourselves in probably in a slightly different area. There's a slab that has a drop of about 3 to 4 inches. And so we're having to be very careful with that. And I know that the fire department there, the personnel, always is there and available to always remind our workers that there is a drop there to make sure that the people see it. And they mark it now with a cone. But nevertheless, it's right now for right now. I think it's we want to keep it. And I'll probably be talking to maybe the city of Harlingen and see if we can find a location there, maybe the old police station or something like that.
Sure. Any questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I had one question. On the early voting sites for the one at Cameron Park, we had a very big turnout just on this runoff. Had over 900 people. We had more people vote at Cameron Park than we did at Christ the King. Yet you've cut Cameron Park back to 1 week in November.
Yes.
That's actually a pretty good site. Why was that done? It actually had more turnout than Christ the King. Yet you have Christ the King open for 2 weeks.
This election we did have a high turnout. You're right on there.
It's becoming more and more popular as an alternative to going all the way to the library. That's why it's easier to get in and out of.
Yes. I mean, we could change that.
I would like to see that one stay at that 2 weeks.
If commission wishes, we can change that. No problem.
If possible. I'd like to see that one stay open the full time.
Okay.
And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say I might make a mention that I tried to see if we could use because I've gotten several calls since before the primary that we try and look at the Brownsville Public Library on Southmost, and that is a site that it's a little further down on Southmost, but the director says that it's not possible because there's not space in the lobby area and we could not use it. There would be more problems than helping us out. So that's why I don't have a change on there. in case you do get a call, because that was a request before, for me to look into it.
Roger, you've
Yes.
sent us some emails recently on some counties going through a process to being able to have folks vote at any precinct on election day.
On election day, correct.
Without regard to be in their home precinct.
Yes, sir.
You know, I know I emailed you back, you know, when my email was operable and asked, you know, if that was something that would be or could be considered for Cameron County. It seems that that would make going to vote a whole lot easier for folks.
Yes, I agree with you, Commissioner. I'm sorry you didn't get it. I did respond to you.
Well, the thing crashed.
Yeah. That is, it started as a pilot program. Lubbock started it a few years ago, and they've been very successful with it. This year, I believe, for this coming year, or for this coming November, I believe, there's 4, and I believe that was in your email. There's four counties that are using it. The requirement is, though, that we use electronic direct voting machines, and we don't have those. We don't use those. We use our paper ballots, and the paper ballots are used alongside with the M100s and the 650s, which are the precinct machines, and the 650s are used for the early voting. Now, the DREs are used also with paper ballots, but paper ballots are only used for the mail-ins in those counties. And so it's a requirement that we be using all electronic, with the exception of the mail-ins, in order for us to be using that type of a system, or to be allowed to be using it, participate in that program. I looked at it a few years ago, and that was the response that I got, and it says it's not possible. Cameron County
Are
cannot
there
do
any
it.
funds out there available to change over to that type of system?
We would be changing the whole system. It costs us around
But are there any funds?
Right now, we don't. There's no state funds or grants. We don't know of any that there's available. It would take probably, in my estimation, about $1.6 million to do it, to make that change. That would, but yes, that would be a great way to help.
How did these other counties do it?
Initially, when they bought a system, they bought a DRE system, a system that was all electronic. Hidalgo County has it. They don't have the paper ballots on election day. They have an I think it's, I'm not sure which system they bought, but it's an all electronic system where you go in there and you don't receive a paper ballot, you vote on the equipment. And I understand that I was here when that was done, when we purchased everything through Hava, and the reasoning behind it was that people were asking that we have paper ballots, so that when there's anything, any questions or any recounts or anything, that we could go back to the paper ballots instead of a paper ballot produced by machine that's going to give you the same result as what the machine has, because you know it's what's in the machine that's being produced, rather than a paper ballot putting into the system.
But in early voting, you can vote anywhere, anyway, with a
Yes,
paper ballot.
that is correct.
So that couldn't be done with paper ballots?
During early voting, we have let's call it 20 locations, 25 locations, and it does cost us quite a bit of money to supply all those locations with each precinct's ballot. If we go do something like that on election day, which right now is not available, we cannot do it, but if we were to, then we would have to supply that one precinct with the ballots for all the county, and that really would be an increase. Right now, we purchase probably around 80,000 ballots, okay, so that we could supply early voting locations and then also on election day. So I think that would really increase
Costly.
many times fold.
Just a question.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Do I hear a motion? By Commissioner Benavides.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item M, consideration and action to approve the final payment. Thank you, Roger. To Moreno Meneses Consulting.
Judge, Commissioners, we were asked to put this item on the agenda because the company name changed
Okay.
This was already approved for payment under Moreno Meneses, but they've changed their name to Pink Ape, and so.
So it's
we're
the
bringing same thing.
Any problem
We
with
already
that?
have a purchase order for it, et
Okay.
cetera.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
By
Second.
Commissioner Hernandez, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed,
Aye.
carries. Item
Excuse
N.
me, that'll be a manual that, we'll ask the treasurer to release.
Oh, is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, the
Okay.
$10,000.
Item N, consideration and direction on whether the Commissioners Court wants to provide debris and hazardous materials disposal and debris monitoring.
Yeah, Commissioners, Judge, what this is reference to, back when we had Hurricane Dolly, we had a pre-positioned contract with Serious Environmental and Beck Disaster that we offered the other cities to help expedite collection of debris and try to get that process started. We just recently signed a new contract with Beck, and initially we're thinking about offering that the same way to the cities.
That worked out pretty good, though, for those cities that signed up.
It did, but
Especially for those that
there is a
didn't pay us.
downside that we want to make sure.
Well, they didn't know us.
That there is a downside.
Right.
There is a downside to this that we were asked to bring to the commissioners. We were being responsible for the full dollar amount and then expecting reimbursement from the cities.
What cities
The
did
other
not pay?
option.
What cities did not
I don't know
pay?
that anybody did not pay.
So everybody
But-
paid?
but the-
No,
but
we had two that didn't pay.
Okay. Who were the cities that did not pay?
City of San Benito and Santa Rosa en Primera. There was 3. Yeah,
Well,
we
you just
had
don't-
3 that did
You know
not
what,
pay.
just don't offer it to those cities. If everybody else paid, then you offer it to them. If they come current, then you can offer it to them. But
The other option, Judge, is that the cities are able to contract with the companies individually and not have to go through us, so we don't become the middleman.
why don't we do that?
We provided
Right.
you the documents, Sirius can do that, and so all we would do is let the cities know, but we wanted
Okay.
the court's direction on that.
Did we bill them? Did we bill the cities and
More
they
than
haven't
once.
paid? So I think it's important to know when these cities come to us for help with other stuff that we're still out some money. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Okay, the motion would be for us to contract only and just send,
Well, we already are contracted, but the other option would be then we notify the cities that if they wish to contract, it wouldn't be under the city's umbrella, they'd be on their own.
You mean under the county's umbrella?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, under the
Got it.
county's umbrella.
That's what this is?
Yes, sir.
All right, do I hear a motion by Commissioner Gatsa? Second?
Second.
By Commissioner Hernandez. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, item carries. Item R, consideration and action to appoint or reappoint Board of Directors to the Cameron County Housing Finance Corporation. Frank, is that yours? Bejarano? He's gone. Do I have a motion to table?
So moved.
By Commissioner Hernandez, second by
second.
Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item S, discussion and possible action regarding the drainage ditch 23 project between Hidalgo County and Cameron County. Pete?
Judge and Commissioners, this is the same item that came before the court a couple of months ago on a drainage project that Hidalgo County was proposing, where part of the canal would begin in Hidalgo County and part of it would be in Cameron County. At that time, we had a discussion about possibly getting Hidalgo County to assume responsibility for the maintenance of the canal going north to the Arroyo. About a week ago, we had a meeting with Commissioner Quintanilla from the Hidalgo County and TxDOT, and this all relates to a project that TxDOT is doing on Business 83 in the La Feria area, La Feria Mercedes area. So just needed to get some direction from the court, see if the court is still interested in the
What's
project.
the bottom line, Pete?
Well, it's still negotiable. 75% of the population that will benefit from the project is in Hidalgo County, 25% is in Cameron County. There's interest on our part for them to assume responsibility of the maintenance of the ditch going all the way north. The only funding, and, it comes down to funding issue, and the only funding available is the funding that was set aside last budget year, that percentage of the tax rate, that was set aside for infrastructure projects. And I believe there's about $400,000 more or less available. So I guess if the court still wants to pursue the project jointly with Hidalgo County, that would be the only funding that's available today. We would probably need to sit down, negotiate an interlocal, and submit a proposal to Hidalgo County, and advise TxDOT, so that they can proceed with their project.
How much is TxDOT willing to put in the project?
I'm not sure what the cost of their project is. They're moving forward with their end. They're between La Feria and Mercedes.
Well, they are.
So, they're committed to their portion. As a matter of fact, I think they already bid it out, and they already have the bids come in.
They're ready to let the project.
Right.
The issue is they don't want to go forward and do all of that if we're not going to follow through with the actual ditch, because then it really doesn't no good to put in those crossings.
They have a number of crossings that they put in their contract that they will fund. But again, the whole intention was to get the entire ditch. And then, like I said, we had discussed about getting Hidalgo County to assume the responsibility for the maintenance of the ditch going all the way north, instead of the county doing it.
I say bring us real numbers.
We have, right now, we have an area out there that there's no drainage district. And there's a lot of area that's really not being tended to. What ends up happening is on the north end, north of the expressway, all the drainage that comes from Hidalgo County actually drains into Cameron, because that's the flow and those where the ditches are. They don't stop at the county line. So part of this agreement, and we've had numerous meetings, Pete, David, myself, and Commissioner Quintanilla, and people from TxDOT and Hidalgo County and their drainage district, Godfrey Garza. And in meeting, one of the things that I told them is, well, tell me, what I can take to my court to show them why it's beneficial for us to participate. And the beneficial part to us is that entire area to the west, they're going to take care of all of our maintenance on those ditches for perpetuity. I mean, that's the agreement on the interlocal. And so because we don't have a drainage district, that puts us in a really good situation to not have to worry about it. And right now, those drainage ditches aren't maintained. One of them gets half of the ditch cleaned out by Walker with La Feria irrigation, but that's occasional. It's not a constant thing. And so we end up having, actually, there in the Rab Road area, we have some flooding issues because of that. And so basically what we sat down with them, and I think the combined numbers are about 1.5, correct, Pete?
Yeah, in the range of 1.5, 1.8.
1.5 to 1.8 total. We had talked about maybe splitting it with them, but we also talked about if we're going to do acquisition of right-of-way and do things of that sort, we could do some in-kind participation. So what we're asking for with this action is allow Pete to sit down and negotiate and work with them and see how we can make this happen as little cost to us as necessary, but by the same token, we're going to benefit by having a lot of area in our county that's going to be now maintained and taken care of by Hidalgo County.
Yeah, the other thing is, we probably need a commitment on the funding, because, if we're not going to be committed to use those funds, then I think we need to tell Hidalgo County and TxDOT that, not spend a lot of time trying to negotiate something and then not having the funds, because I'm not sure where else, we could get that type of money, if we're looking at a range of $400,000 to $500,000.
What was that money earmarked for originally?
Well, last year, I think the only thing that was earmarked for was, infrastructure, transportation, related type of projects. And the idea, the discussion was,
Where was that money identified at?
I'm not sure, I guess it's hidden in a contingency fund, but it was a percentage of the tax
Where did
rate.
it come from, Javier? Where did that fund come from?
When we adopted the budget last year, that amount was in excess of the expenditures. I don't remember the exact
In
process
excess
of
of
how
the
we got,
expenditures in regard to what?
in regard to the revenues?
Yeah, but what budget?
The general fund, it's general fund. That's where it's sitting.
General fund money.
Yeah. And the reason it wasn't put into road and bridge was because if it was within road and bridge, then it was restricted
Well,
to
if I
use.
recall
But-
correctly, some of those funds had been identified to buy some long-term money to replenish our project roadmap.
Yeah, there was discussion
Okay.
to that. I
Right.
don't know the exact specifics
That's-
of it.
I think there was specific action, and there was votes taken in regards to how that money could be spent. And we were gonna be looking at seeing how much of that amount per year would buy us in project roadmap funds for the future so that we could continue infrastructure projects as we have in the county. You need to go back and look at that.
Yeah, okay.
You know, 'cause I don't
I
think
know it
that-
was tied to infrastructure projects, you know, specifically.
Project
I don't
roadmap
know that there was any.
specifically.
Okay.
Well, this changes things, though, because that was not my understanding when we had the discussion about I thought it was money that was set aside, or it was left over from something, but now what I'm hearing, it was a restricted amount that was set aside last year from general fund in a contingency fund?
Yeah, I think what it was was the percentage of the tax rate, and we were gonna use that
That's
to
correct.
leverage.
And that's why, that's right, okay.
And we were gonna replenish the
And
fund. that was-
So, you know.
So these are the same funds?
Yes.
Yeah, these funds
Yeah, the
are-
percentage equals
Yeah,
to 400,000.
That was part of the justification for the tax increase as well.
Correct.
Okay? Because we had the tax increases to pay for the bonds that we already approved back in June of last year or so ago, 2 years ago, and then this 500 that was set aside for these projects. So to come back and then, like we've done, but to come back and say, no, we're going to use this for this, that was not what we voted on at the time when we adopted the tax rate.
Go back and look at what we voted on.
I think you're right. I think that's what it was.
You know, but I know that I supported strongly replenishing project
Yeah.
roadmap.
Well,
We've seen-
that's the reason you voted for the
Right,
increase, because
that's
that money
the
was
reason we
earmarked for
voted
that.
for
I
it.
remember that
I mean,
now.
We've seen what that
Yep.
fund has done for county infrastructure in the last 15 years. We need to replenish it to hopefully be able to do the same for the next 15 years.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, you have to go back to the drawing board and find $400,000.
Or an agreed upon amount.
Okay, all right. So on this one, the motion is to table?
I would say continue the discussion, you know, and see if there's any funds anywhere else.
Well,
The road and bridge or somewhere else.
The problem is that TxDOT is getting ready to start with their project. In order for their project to go in the right direction, they need commitments from Hidalgo County and Cameron County that we're going to participate. And if we can't commit, then it's going to affect the project.
Can we commit by the 16th, or is that too late? That's our next meeting.
Well, but look, what I think, okay, if you're going to ask that we continue with the discussions that you said, that's fine, but I don't think you can go to that pool of money, because that was for something
I
else.
mean, go to road and bridge, go to something, you know, I mean, see what.
Road and Bridge doesn't have any money, so I don't know where you're going to go.
Do you have the money somewhere, Pete?
I'll go back and revisit project roadmap, because I know we've gotten some reimbursements on 732 and 106. I'll see what that amount is, and we might have some other reimbursements pending from TxDOT.
Okay.
So I'll see what that amount equals to.
But I would say continue the discussion and see and how we can fund it.
Okay, is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second?
I'll second.
By Commissioner Hernandez. Further discussion?
Yes. Is that going to get us, though, where we need to be with moving with the project or not, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it back on for our next regular meeting, and I'll get with TechStop in the meantime and Hidalgo County. And we'll see how we can work it out.
Okay, let Commissioner Quintanilla know, because he was waiting to see what we were going to do for their next meeting.
Right.
Because they have a meeting Tuesday, I think.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. I see Frank in here. Let me go back real quick to his item, which was the reappointment of the board.
Yes, sir. This item came up based on a meeting between Mr. Cisneros, who is the chairman of the Housing Finance Corporation, with Judge Cascos, and he indicated that the board had not been active, but he wanted to get members reappointed or appointed.
Did he come up with some names?
If you look at the list, we ended up contacting all the existing members, and all of them except one wants to get reappointed. So the recommendation would be to reappoint the ones that want to serve, continue to serve, and find another member.
Okay.
They don't have to be residents of the county?
They have to be residents of the county.
Okay, because the first one has a address of McAllen.
He works in McAllen, but
So that's his work address?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
then we need another member there.
right. And in the past, just so the court knows, our research indicates that the appointments are based on their bylaws, and the bylaws simply say that members are appointed by majority vote of the court. It doesn't specify that each commissioner has a
Okay.
particular vote.
Well, why don't you, I'll tell you what, why don't you brief a little bit closer the commissioners, and y'all come up with the name or make a recommendation to appoint.
You want me to ask Mr. Cisneros for a recommendation?
No, you can, and they submit it or have.
Those
or
other
ask
people
you all
want to
if y'all
serve,
wanna-
right?
Yeah.
Those other people want to serve?
Yeah, it's a tough board. I mean, it doesn't meet that often, and it's,
Right.
you know.
I think it'd be better if the court, if we could come back next week, and you all might have a name for us.
I think reappoint.
Okay, do I hear a motion to reappoint
So moved.
the existing members that want to serve,
Second.
and to have you submit or
Have
brief the
court.
commissioners for a name they may want to give you?
Okay.
Maybe try to spread out within the county, see where the residences are, trying to get so the county's represented. Moved by Commissioner Hernandez, do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Gatz, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Do we have time? We got 3 minutes. Okay, we could really press for time. So let me go back to the presentations.
Item J.
Well, but you have a presentation. Is your presentation short?
Yes, it's short.
Okay.
Or which one is that?
Thank you so much
B,
for having us here
2B.
today. Really quickly, we're not here to ask for any money. We're here to provide a service to Cameron County. My name is Elisa Alvarado. I'm board president of an organization called ACT, the Advocacy Alliance Center of Texas. You guys may have seen our public service announcements. We are here today to ask to collaborate with Cameron County and to work with you guys in our voter initiative. We are also here to talk to you a little bit about what our organization is doing to help the counties increase voter turnout. The presentation that I'm passing out, you guys can just take a look at it. I'm not going to go through all of it. But in a nutshell, what we want to do is we want to help the elections office in Hidalgo County, Cameron County, Starr County, and Willacy County. And what our organization is doing is we are purchasing what's called a voter lookup application, similar to that of Tarrant and Dallas County. This application is being purchased through our organization, but it is going to be made available to Cameron County, Hidalgo County, Starr County. And what we're doing with this application is letting the elections office be able to tell everyone in Cameron County, if you don't know if you're registered to vote, you can go on our website, you can type in your name and figure that out. More importantly, we're here today because we presented to the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court and They were very happy that we're collaborating with them. As a matter of fact, Commissioner Palacios was one of our main advocates there. He has in his court kind of a little media kit from our organization. And what we want to do, with your permission, is talk to the departments of the county, register employees that are not yet registered to vote, and remind them during early vote and election time where they can go vote. This is a nonpartisan effort, and with your help, we would like to go and make presentations to the departments, get them engaged, and get them on board.
I would suggest that you work with Mr. Ortiz and coordinate with him. The only problem that comes up with dealing with departments is that, you know, we try to limit the interruptions during their workday. So you're gonna have to coordinate that, maybe just get a group together and maybe go visit them for 3 or 4 minutes. I'd be surprised, I guess I wouldn't be surprised how many people that work for Cameron County may not be registered to vote. But I think that's excellent. I appreciate you doing that.
Okay.
But coordinate with, if that's okay with you guys? Sure. You coordinate with Mr. Ortiz, and he can guide you through the process.
Absolutely.